body, Chrysler. We had, all these car companies and things. My dad worked in the industry. He worked in a tool and die shop. And the polarization, at that time, like 70%, more than 70% of people thought government was, worked for them and things, life was good and there was opportunity. And now people don't experience that. And so when you look at the difference between what's going on in the Democratic Party, where you've got people who are actually trying to solve problems. I opened the article with this contrast that at midnight on New Year's Eve, right, 1 minute after midnight, the first day of this year of 2026, Zohran Mamdani got sworn in as mayor of New York City on the promise of making the city affordable. That was his phrase. A city we can afford was his actual phrase. And at that very same moment, 1 minute after midnight or 1 second after midnight, roughly 20 million Americans saw their Obamacare, their ACA subsidies just explode, and because the Republicans refused to extend the tax credits. And the consequence of that has been that about 5 million people have dropped off ACA and just have no insurance at all. And the consequence of that is that the people who stayed on ACA tended to be the sicker people, and the people who dropped off were the younger people who figured, hey, I don't need health insurance. I don't get sick. The only reason I might need it is for a car accident or something, and my car insurance might even cover that. So the result of that is that now the insurance companies are looking at 20% height, price increases, which we'll be talking about, a little later on. But, the bottom line is, on the same moment, the same night, Zohran Mamdani, the Democrat, says, we're going to make everything more affordable. And the Republicans just jacked up your health care prices right across the board. Everybody's insurance prices are going up because these risk pools are getting smaller and more dangerous, or more, sicker. And, even Newsweek, which is nobody's idea of a radical rag, pointed out that the thing that took Donald Trump into the White House in 2024 was essentially the same thing that took Zohran Mamdani into Gracie Mansion, into the governor's or the mayor's mansion in New York City a year later, which was, about a year later, was this hope for an economy that works for all of us. Now, Trump, of course, was lying through his teeth when he said he was going to lower prices on day one, and he'd get grocery prices down, and he was going to get oil and gas prices down. Quack, quack, quack. Mamdani wasn't. And I've told the story a million times. Back in 2016, in the election of 2016, Louise and I lived in Washington, D.C. We had a little boat that we lived on. That was in a marina there in D.C. And there were a bunch of retired, well, there were even a few active duty, but a lot of retired Navy and Coast Guard guys who lived there because, they love boats. They live on boats. And as far as I know, all of them called themselves Republicans. But I remember during the primary season that they were about evenly split between people who are going to vote for Bernie and people who are going to vote for Donald Trump. Nobody wanted to vote for Jeb Bush or Hillary Clinton among this group, but they were all looking at Bernie or Donald Trump. Why? Because the system, after 45 years of Reaganomics just gutting the American middle class, the system isn't working, and they know it, and they wanted change. They wanted genuine change, and Trump promised that, and Bernie promised that in different ways. And Trump's promises, obviously, as we now know, were all lies. Bernie's were not. I've talked before about my dad. When I was a little kid, my earliest memories, 4, 5, 6 years old, 7 years old, we were really poor. We lived in this little one-room house, basically, in Lansing, Michigan. And we, got food at the surplus. And my dad was selling Rexair vacuum cleaners door to door and World Book encyclopedias. That's how he made a living, sort of. And then he got this job at Lansing Tool and Die Sinking, and then later at Metal Machining Company, he got a good union job in a tool and die shop. And boom, we bought a house, a 3-bedroom house that he could raise, the 6 of us in. And he bought a new car every 3 years, and it took us on vacation every year, and he retired with a pension, and mom and dad could travel around the world. And that wasn't wealth or riches. That was the normal American middle class. That was 2/3 of 65 to 66% of us lived that way until the bite of Reaganism, up until, the 90s really, when Reaganism really started taking effect. The destruction of the unions. When Reagan came into office, 1/3 of us were in unions. By the time him and Bush left, it was down to 10%. It's down to 6% now in the private sector. And now today, instead of 2/3 of us being in the middle class with 1 paycheck, we've got 41% of us in the middle class with 2 paychecks. And people know that. And the difference between Democrats and Republicans is that Democrats know that we got robbed by the oligarchs and the neoliberalism that they've been promoting in both parties, frankly, but particularly Reaganomics. And the Republicans think that it's because brown people took our jobs. Or, hearkening back to Rush Limbaugh's feminazis, women took our jobs. Lacking that because, queer people are somehow a threat to all of us. They're going to destroy our marriages. But underneath all of this is this financial pain. And this was the sales pitch. Scott Bessent the other day came out and said, that all these brown people who are immigrants into the United States that the Republicans want us to point at and say, oh, they're the ones why I can't have a middle class anymore. That's basically what Bessent said. He said, we've had, he said, quote, artificially suppressed wages for years because of illegal immigration. And, I used to assume that was actually true. Well, Brookings did an analysis, and they found that after ICE operations wiped out 668,000 jobs, that about 297,000 of those jobs belonged to American-born workers because it's just so disruptive. So what we have here, basically, is that the Republican voters have been told it's the fault of brown people, black people, and women. And Democratic voters have been told it's the fault of a system that has been corrupted by Supreme Court decisions and by billionaire oligarchs and big corporations owning politicians. And this has created a split, by the way, within the Democratic Party that we saw being played out in Maine right now, for example, and other places. And we're seeing played out in the primaries, in the Democratic primaries. And I think that, this is something that we need to be talking about and we need to be sharing with people. And I would even argue that the racism in the Republican Party is much greater now than it would have been if the middle class hadn't gotten wiped out and people hadn't started looking for the villains and had, racists like the folks at Fox so-called News and right-wing radio and television telling them that it's those black people or it's those brown people or it's those queer people or it's those women. So, I see this fundamentally, I acknowledge the racism and all that, and the homophobia and the misogyny. I get all that. And I think underneath so much of it, most of it, obviously not all of it, much of it, is this economic anxiety that's the direct result of Reaganism and neoliberalism. Iran, forever war. Trump axes the FEC. Housing, sign the damn bill. Is McConnell alive? The Olympian Poolgate mystery update, and Fox News sharing Cupcakes Communism. Good morning, this is the Commonwealth Report, news for the public, not the powerful. You can follow us at commonwealthreport.news. Is Trump dragging us into a forever war with Iran? The White House is bracing for a long fight with Iran. Israel's Channel 12 reports Trump pulled his national security team into the Oval Office this week to plan the next round of strikes. A U.S. official told the network the fighting could last anywhere from a couple of days to a month, depending on whether Iran keeps hitting commercial ships in the Strait of Hormuz. That same official said, quote, "We're going to slap them a bit." Washington is now weighing a naval blockade of Iranian ports. Nobody voted for this. Congress never authorized it. Oil prices are climbing, markets are sliding, and the men running this thing talk about slapping a country of 90 million people like it's a bar fight. Wars started this casually don't generally end quickly. Who referees an election when the referees get fired? Reuters reported Thursday night that Trump has fired the remaining 3 members of the Federal Election Commission 4 months before the midterms. The FEC enforces campaign finance law. It is already crippled by vacancies, too few members to even meet a quorum. Now nobody's home at all. This comes right after the Supreme Court threw out 90 years of precedent and handed the president near unlimited power to fire the heads of independent agencies, the very agencies Congress built to be independent from him. Reuters also reported the commission helps guide states on voting procedures and voting machine updates. Trump, who has never let go of his rigged election fantasies, wants federal control over mail-in voting and investigations of local election workers. He's firing the umpires. Then he'll tell you who won. Why won't Trump sign the housing bill on his desk? The median price of an existing American home just hit $440,600, an all-time record, according to the National Association of Realtors. And the bipartisan bill written to bring those prices down is sitting on Trump's desk unsigned. Congress passed the Road to Housing Act by crushing margins, 89-10 in the Senate, 358-32 in the House. Trump canceled his own signing ceremony, demanding Congress pass his voter ID bill first and dismiss the housing bill as a big yawn. Elizabeth Warren, who wrote it, with Republican Tim Scott, had a simpler message, quote, "Sign the damn bill." Amy Klobuchar said it's been sitting on his desk long enough. The bill becomes law Friday night, whether he signs it or not. Remember, he never wanted it. Weekend at Mitch McConnell's. Mitch McConnell hasn't cast a Senate vote since June 11th. He went into a Washington area hospital on June 14th, and nearly a month later, his office still won't say why, how he's doing, or when he's coming back. A Republican congressman from Indiana went on television Thursday and asked out loud whether the 84-year-old is even alive. Emergency call audio, first reported by journalist Desiree Townsend, described responders giving CPR to someone in cardiac arrest at McConnell's address that day. His name isn't in the recording. His office won't discuss it. Kentucky's governor wrote asking for answers, saying office holders owe voters, quote, clear communication about one's ability to serve. The Senate comes back Monday, and McConnell still chairs the defense spending panel. A man can vanish for a month, and nobody in power blinks. They indicted an Olympian for touching water. Free Davey. Davey Hearn is 67 years old and a 3-time Olympic canoeist. He stopped at the Lincoln Memorial reflecting pool during a 64-mile bike ride, reached in and touched a chunk of peeling blue sealant. National Guard troops and park police held him for 5 hours. A grand jury indicted him on a felony. He faces up to 10 years in prison. Thursday, he pleaded not guilty while supporters packed the courthouse, chanted his name, and waved signs renaming it the Deflection Pool. Trump's multi-million-dollar renovation has been peeling, blooming algae, and running green for months. They're draining it again, the second time in 3 months. Hearn's attorney, Norm Eisen, put it plainly, quote, "It's not a crime to touch the reflecting pool. The pool fell apart on its own. The only suspect they could find was a guy on a bike." Crazy alert. Is sharing cupcakes the gateway to communism? On Fox News Thursday night, guest host Charlie Hurt warned viewers about commie radicals surging through Democratic primaries. His Exhibit A? A campaign ad where Michigan Senate candidate Abdul El Sayed sits with a circle of school kids. He tells them that if you have something, you ought to share it. Then he asks them to imagine owning 1 billion cupcakes. Could they eat all billion? The kids say no. They get a stomachache. That's the whole clip. Hertz says El Said is, quote, already hard at work indoctrinating your kids, then gives the camera a sour look. A grown man watched a kindergarten lesson about sharing dessert and saw Karl Marx? Laugh, then stop laughing. Millions of Americans are being trained to hear basic decency as a foreign ideology. Sharing your cupcakes isn't communism, it's kindergarten. And that's the way it is today, Friday, July 10th, 2026. I'm Thom Hartmann. Did you know that every weekday we send out an email before the show giving you all the topics coming up so you can be fully informed and ready to interact with our program? Or that after the show we send out Sue's Stack, a list of every topic I've discussed along with clickable hot links to every source of information I've shared with you on the air? It's all completely free and available over at thom.tv, THOM.tv. Check it out.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
Well, happy Friday, TGIF, Shabbat Shalom, Juma Mubarak, whatever it is for you. It's the beginning of the weekend here for us, and I hope you're having a fine day and you have a wonderful weekend. A lot to talk about today. Are we in a police state? How do you know? We'll get to that in a moment. Also, who referees an election when the referees get fired? We'll get into that in a moment. And a crazy alert, is sharing cupcakes the gateway to communism? Fox News thinks so. I'll tell you all about that. In the second hour of our program, Congressman Khanna, Vice Chair of the Congressional Progressive Caucus, representing Silicon Valley area of California in the U.S. House, will be with us for the entire hour, taking your calls in a National Progressive Town Hall meeting. In our third hour, weekend at Mitch McConnell's. Also, why won't Trump sign the housing bill on his desk? He says he's protesting. We'll get into that. Also, they indicted an Olympian for touching water. Free Davey! So, a lot to talk about today. My op-ed over at HartmannReport.com, and I also put it over on DailyKos.com just a moment ago, is titled Police State. Are we already there and just don't know it? And, Tuesday morning in Houston, Lorenzo Salgado Araujo, forgive me, my Spanish is, from third grade, literally, did what he'd done nearly every morning for 35 years. He got up at 5 a.m., kissed his wife goodbye, loaded his van, drove off to picked up his construction crew in Magnolia Park. This is, the heart of Houston's Mexican-American community. He'd raised 3 sons in that city. They became a teacher and 2 engineers. He had no criminal record. He was partway through the process of getting legal. They'd already taken his biometrics and fingerprint. And by 7 a.m., he was lying down on Canal Street with a bullet in his abdomen, crying desperately for help and in pain because he had been shot by a masked ICE agent. He died at the Pentob Hospital. ICE says he rammed their vehicle with his weaponized, but, there's apparently no visual evidence of that. So, and even the president of Mexico is pissed off about this. Which brings us to the question that, people keep asking. They occasionally call in to hear and ask, and certainly bring it up a lot on social media, is, are we in a police state yet? And if so, how would we know? I lived in Germany for years, back 86, 87. I was working with Salem International, an international relief organization. I spent part of those 2 years in Herchheim, a little town that literally was on the East German border. I crossed through Checkpoint Charlie into East Berlin, saw that. My old buddy Armin Lehmann was the teenage Hitler youth who brought the news to Hitler that the war was lost, stood outside his bunker as he shot himself. My mentor and employer in Germany, Gottfried Müller, was in the German intelligence service, in the Nazi intelligence service. He renounced Nazism. He got captured by the British in Iran and spent the whole war in prison. Basically, and came out and devoted his life to peace work. So, I knew people who were actual Nazis, Nazi youth and a Nazi intelligence officer and several others, actually. And I knew a lot of people who had just kind of kept their heads down. And this was back in the 70s and 80s, and those people were still around. Most of them are dead now. But they all told me essentially the same story of how this all begins. How do you know you're in a police state? I mean, Germany didn't announce it just one day. It began with forbidden thought. Verbotener Gedanke. You know, you may not think like this. So let's just go through the inventory. What is a police state? Let's just go through the list. Just straightforward stuff. A police state is a nation where the police answer to the leader rather than to the law, and where nobody outside the leader's circle is permitted to hold the police accountable. It's a nation where they can arrest, beat, torture, imprison, and even kill with both anonymity and impunity. Renee Good, Alex Preddy, now this recent murder in Texas, going after an Olympic canoeist for reaching into the reflecting pool. I mean, it goes from the most extreme to the most banal. Or banal, or however you say that word. And they're refusing, the feds are refusing to give the evidence of these murders over to the Hennepin County Attorney General, Mary Moriarty. Okay, number one. Number two, a police state imprisons its dissidents and makes the sentences spectacular so everyone gets the message. There was a local book club that held a protest on the 4th of July outside the Prairieland ICE Detention Center. Now, one of the guys brought a gun and shot at the ICE officers after they pointed a gun at him, apparently, you know, from everything we can figure out. His name was Benjamin Song. That guy got 100 years in prison. It's a lot, but hey, he pulled out a gun and shot at a cop. But nobody else did. Marcella Ruda, who was a doula and who was acquitted by the jury of every violent count against her, acquitted, got 70 years in prison. 5 other people from the book club were also acquitted of any violence, and they got 50 years each. And Daniel Estrada, who was a Denton teacher and a poet, who literally wasn't there, got 30 years in prison for moving a box of anti-fascist magazines from one house to another. 30 years. Number 3, a police state criminalizes thought itself, as well as any expression of or action on that thought, no matter how otherwise legal it may be. Last September, Trump signed NSPM 7, National Security Presidential Memorandum 7, saying that indicators of domestic terrorism, that's a verbatim quote, include anti-Americanism, anti-capitalism, and anti-Christianity. And that anti-fascism is the organizing, rallying cry of domestic terrorists. The FBI has since retooled its 200 joint terrorism task forces to look toward the American left rather than foreign terrorism. And they have this new Joint Mission Center that is looking into the funding of the anti-Trump protest movement. We see them going after the Southern Poverty Law Center. Number 3, a police state knocks on your door in reaction to your opinions, should you dare to express them out loud or in print. In January, a Rochester software professional named Daniel Strever sent a 3-paragraph email to Todd Lyons, who was then the director of ICE. It said, and I quote, "You are a monstrous human being and will go down in history as America's Reinhard Heydrich the Butcher. You will torment yourself until your last day on earth." It contained no threats. There was no mention of violence. But 5 months later, 2 federal agents rang his doorbell while he was in Finland with his 7-year-old daughter and gave his wife a document headed, "Warning, notice, you may be in violation of a federal law." And then they tracked him down in a New York City hotel where only his wife knew he was there and she hadn't told anybody, and tried to scare him also. He's now suing with the Foundation for Individual Rights and Expression, which could cause that group to end up, you know, being under investigation like SPLC. The same week, federal agents confronted another person, a poll worker, for something that she had posted on Instagram. Number 4, a police state builds a security force loyal to the leader and his oligarch cronies rather than to the nation. Well, I mean, you know, you've got this quick reaction force that Trump has built within the National Guard. You've got ICE. Putin built something like this. He called it Rosa Vargardia. Hitler built something like this. It was called his Schutzstaffel. We remember them as the SS. Number 5, a police state needs a compliant press. And you don't have to negotiate to nationalize the networks when you can simply arrange for a friendly, morbidly rich oligarch to buy them. CBS, CNN, etc. Number 6, a police state rewrites the past. You know, as George Orwell wrote, he who controls the past controls the future. Who controls the present controls the past. Trump has signed this order restoring truth and sanity to American history, and they're tearing down the history of racism and slavery in the United States and so on. And finally, a police state controls the vote. And just yesterday, Trump fired these members of the Federal Election Commission, or the Federal Election Assistance Commission. And the Federal Election Commission itself, which has prosecutorial power, has been paralyzed. So are we in a police state yet? I mean, I'll leave it to you to make that determination. I think we are in the early stages of one. Not the very early stages, the middle early stages. And I think that the one thing that we have right now that the people in Germany did not have in 1934 is an election coming up that might be able to stop this. So make sure that you're registered to vote and that everyone you know is. And let your elected officials know what you're thinking about these things.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
16 minutes past the hour. We'll be back with more of the news of the day and your calls in just a moment. And welcome back. Jerry in Venice, California. Hey, Jerry, what's on your mind today?
Yes, there's a Jefferson quote, an insult unpunished is a parent of many others. And this guy is just a mind blower, talking about, you want to talk to Putin there yesterday with next to Zelensky. So the thing about impeachment has no timeline. When they impeached Trump the first time, they get Maxine Waters off, and Fox tries to get you, gotcha. And they asked Maxine, what's impeachment? She says, anything we say it is, because the Senate convicts. Mm-hmm. So you impeach both of them at the same time. You make this Massey Speaker of the House, and he becomes president. I think I got that right.
By both of them, I mean Trump advance.
Yeah, you do them both at the same time.
Yeah, I'm not sure that you would have, in fact, I'm certain that the Senate, Republicans in the Senate would never vote to convict Vance.
Well, they're getting desperate, Tom.
Oh, I get that. but I don't think they realize, that Vance is the wholly owned tool of a right-wing, formerly South African, billionaire oligarch. But I get what you're saying, Jerry, and obviously if the Democrats take the House, impeachment is coming.
Throwing out there.
Yeah, I get it.
I think it's worth throwing out there.
Okay, thank you, Jerry. Good talking to you. Don in Pittsburgh, Kansas. Hey, Don, what's up?
Hi. Well, along with some of the other events, police state type events, the whole Graham Plattner thing stinks to high heaven. The Young Turks on July 7th and July 9th did two shows about the extremely thin evidence, and even when the reporter from Politico appeared on Morning Joe, Mika Brzezinski did some pretty good questioning of him. They don't have any evidence.
No, I get that, but it's really there's really no point in debating it any longer. He hasn't signed the paperwork yet, but he's out.
Right, but I just think we need to classify him along with John F. Kennedy, Robert F. Kennedy, all the various people who've been murdered. He was murdered, on the internet.
Well,
he's gone politically.
John and Bobby Kennedy were hound dogs, but neither of them was ever accused, to the best of my knowledge, of rape. That's just a line you cannot cross.
But accusing people of rape is very different from actually.
I get all that, but did you watch the interview with this woman?
Parts of it, yeah. You mean the what's her face?
I don't remember her name, but the one who's accusing him, the Democrat, not the Republican, the Democrat. She struck me as credible. But like I said, this is the people of Maine have essentially spoken. They're going to pick somebody else. The question is, who are they going to pick? And this Troy Jackson guy looks pretty good. He was on whose show was he on last? He was on one of the shows last night that I saw being interviewed, and he seems like a solid progressive. He started. He was the head of the Senate in Maine for a while. He started like 15 years ago being a conservative Democrat, as it were. He was first elected as an independent. He was Catholic. He was anti-abortion and all that kind of. He changed his positions on all these things over the last 15 years. He's become a very, very outspoken progressive. I think he's got a good chance. But again, I'm here in Portland, Oregon. We're literally on the other Portland, right? The other side of the country. So
right.
We got to leave this up to the Mainers, Don. Don, thanks for the call. We'll be right back. Find the Thom Hartmann program wherever you go. In addition to radio stations across the nation and Free Speech TV on Dish Direct and the Internet, we're also live on YouTube across most social media and Tom.tv every single weekday with clips and links as well. So have you noticed that the Republicans are pretty much not talking about a constitutional convention anymore? They used to be gung-ho to rewrite the Constitution. They wanted to put corporate personhood in there. They wanted to change it so that women can't vote. They wanted to do away with the election of senators, repeal the 17th Amendment, take us back to them being appointed by the states. They had all these they wanted to outlaw labor unions, all these weird ideas, but they've stopped talking about it. I mean, they're still moving forward on it, but it's not. Project 2025, for example, their ultimate talking document, does not have one single mention in it about a constitutional convention. Why would that be? Well, it's because the Supreme Court is doing their work for them. I mean, they have overturned Article 2. They've overturned the First, Fourth, Ninth, and 14th Amendments. They've overturned Article 1, Section 7. All the details of this whole thing are over at HartmannReport.com. You got to check it out.
No one ever sounds the alarm. No one says your freedom's gone. It comes in shadows dressed as law. One more silence, one more flaw. They tell you trust us, they tell you wait. That's how they build a police state. Brick by brick, fear by fear, until the truth just disappears.
History's knocking, can you hear the sound?
Freedom dies in whispers, not all at once, but inch by inch it hits the ground. Police state,
Who's next in line?
one more freedom, one more crime.
Police state, open your eyes.
Tyranny wears a good disguise. Don't look away,
Don't hesitate.
tomorrow comes too late. Police state, police state.
Watching neighbors now, speaking truth becomes somehow something dangerous, something wrong. That's how fear grows loud and strong.
The papers change, the stories fade. Justice bends beneath the weight. You wake one day and realize the prison walls were built inside.
No king,
no crown,
no man above the law.
Stand up,
Speak out,
or watch democracy fall.
Police state, not in my name.
Freedom isn't theirs to take. Police state,
Draw the line.
the future's yours, the choice is mine. Raise your voice, don't accept fate. History's watching. Don't become a police state.
There you go. 23 minutes past the hour. Trump fires the commission that helps states run elections just in time for the election. This guy is doing and the Republican Party, who supports him and are in on this with him, are doing absolutely everything they can, and I'm sure there's more to come. I mean, I'm waiting for the state of emergency, right? For the Insurrection Act. I'm waiting for the prosecutions. They're doing everything they can to rig this fall's elections. Because they know what's coming. If the Democrats are in charge, You're going to see Donald Trump's crimes exposed. You're going to see his looting of our government, him and his sons and his daughter and her husband looting our government. You're going to see their billionaire oligarch friends being exposed for bribes, for bribing Trump. I mean, you've got a whole bunch of oligarchs who are scared to death right now. There's going to be a mind-boggling amount of money thrown into this election, because this is literally the end or the renewal of American democracy. This election. And I know I've been doing this program for 25 years. I have been, there have been a couple of elections where I was like, this is the most important election of our lifetime. And each time it was, because it was building up to this. And here we are. The Supreme Court gave him the power to fire people earlier this week, or late last week, as I recall. And now he's doing it. Meanwhile, over on Fox News, Charlie Hurt was filling in for, what's his name? Jesse Waters. And he played a clip of Mohammed el-Sayed, the guy, or Abdul el-Sayed, the guy running for the United States Senate in Michigan in the primaries on August 4th. And Sayed is sitting with a bunch of kids. And one of the kids says, literally unprompted, the kid says, billionaires don't want to spend more because they might be greedy and they weren't raised well. So el-Sayed says, I think it's important that if you have something that you share. Imagine you guys had 1 billion cupcakes. Imagine you had 1 billion cupcakes. Do you think you could eat all those yourself? And the kids say, no. And el-Sayed says, it would give you a really bad stomachache, right? And that was it, right? But he plays this clip on Fox, so-called news, and he says, the ranks of commie radicals are positioning for their takeover. He says, this commie doc without a medical license is running for Senate in Michigan, and he's already hard at work indoctrinating your kids. Yeah, sharing is communism. Sharing cupcakes in kindergarten is communism. Are you friggin' kidding me? I mean, well, Fox News can turn anything into an outrage, right? Remember the tan suit? Incredible. So anyhow, it's Anything Goes weekend. What's on your mind? I'll pick up your calls on the other side of the break. Stick around. We'll be right back.
You're listening to the Thom Hartmann Program. Call 202-808-9925.
Despair and fear are not options. Iran, forever war. Trump axes the FEC. Housing, sign the damn bill. Is McConnell alive? The Olympian Poolgate mystery update. And Fox News sharing Cupcakes communism. Good morning. This is the Commonwealth Report, news for the public, not the powerful. You can follow us at commonwealthreport.news. Is Trump dragging us into a forever war with Iran? The White House is bracing for a long fight with Iran. Israel's Channel 12 reports Trump pulled his national security team into the Oval Office this week to plan the next round of strikes. A U.S. official told the network the fighting could last anywhere from a couple of days to a month, depending on whether Iran keeps hitting commercial ships in the Strait of Hormuz. That same official said, quote, we're going to slap them a bit. Washington is now weighing a naval blockade of Iranian ports. Nobody voted for this. Congress never authorized it. Oil prices are climbing, markets are sliding, and the men running this thing talk about slapping a country of 90 million people like it's a bar fight? Wars started this casually don't generally end quickly. Who referees an election when the referees get fired? Reuters reported Thursday night that Trump has fired the remaining 3 members of the Federal Election Commission 4 months before the midterms. The FEC enforces campaign finance law. It is already crippled by vacancies, too few members to even meet a quorum. Now nobody's home at all. This comes right after the Supreme Court threw out 90 years of precedent and handed the president near unlimited power to fire the heads of independent agencies, the very agencies Congress built to be independent from him. Reuters also reported the commission helps guide states on voting procedures and voting machine updates. Trump, who has never let go of his rigged election fantasies, wants federal control over mail-in voting and investigations of local election workers. He's firing the umpires. Then he'll tell you who won. Why won't Trump sign the housing bill on his desk? The median price of an existing American home just hit $440,600, an all-time record, according to the National Association of Realtors. And the bipartisan bill written to bring those prices down is sitting on Trump's desk unsigned. Congress passed the Road to Housing Act by crushing margins, 89-10 in the Senate, 358-32 in the House. Trump canceled his own signing ceremony, demanding Congress pass his voter ID bill first and dismiss the housing bill as a big yawn. Elizabeth Warren, who wrote it, with Republican Tim Scott, had a simpler message, quote, "Sign the damn bill." Amy Klobuchar said it's been sitting on his desk long enough. The bill becomes law Friday night, whether he signs it or not. Remember, he never wanted it. Weekend at Mitch McConnell's. Mitch McConnell hasn't cast a Senate vote since June 11th. He went into a Washington area hospital on June 14th, and nearly a month later, his office still won't say why, how he's doing, or when he's coming back. A Republican congressman from Indiana went on television Thursday and asked out loud whether the 84-year-old is even alive. Emergency call audio, first reported by journalist Desiree Townsend, described responders giving CPR to someone in cardiac arrest at McConnell's address that day. His name isn't in the recording. His office won't discuss it. Kentucky's governor wrote asking for answers, saying office holders owe voters, quote, clear communication about one's ability to serve. The Senate comes back Monday, and McConnell still chairs the defense spending panel. A man can vanish for a month, and nobody in power blinks. They indicted an Olympian for touching water. Free Davey. Davey Hearn is 67 years old and a three-time Olympic canoeist. He stopped at the Lincoln Memorial reflecting pool during a 64-mile bike ride, reached in and touched a chunk of peeling blue sealant. National Guard troops and park police held him for 5 hours. A grand jury indicted him on a felony. He faces up to 10 years in prison. Thursday, he pleaded not guilty while supporters packed the courthouse, chanted his name, and waved signs renaming it the Deflection Pool. Trump's multi-million-dollar renovation has been peeling, blooming algae, and running green for months. They're draining it again, the second time in 3 months. Hearn's attorney, Norm Eisen, put it plainly, quote, "It's not a crime to touch the reflecting pool. The pool fell apart on its own. The only suspect they could find was a guy on a bike." Crazy alert. Is sharing cupcakes the gateway to communism? On Fox News Thursday night, guest host Charlie Hurt warned viewers about commie radicals surging through Democratic primaries. His Exhibit A? A campaign ad where Michigan Senate candidate Abdul El Sayed sits with a circle of school kids. He tells them that if you have something, you ought to share it. Then he asks them to imagine owning 1 billion cupcakes. Could they eat all billion? The kids say no. They get a stomachache. That's the whole clip. Hurt says El Sayed is, quote, already hard at work indoctrinating your kids, then gives the camera a sour look. A grown man watched a kindergarten lesson about sharing dessert and saw Karl Marx? Laugh, then stop laughing. Millions of Americans are being trained to hear basic decency as a foreign ideology. Sharing your cupcakes isn't communism, it's kindergarten. And that's the way it is today, Friday, July 10th, 2026. I'm Thom Hartmann.
Did you know that every weekday we send out an email before the show giving you all the topics coming up so you can be fully informed and ready to interact with our program? Or that after the show we send out Sue's Stack, a list of every topic I've discussed along with clickable hot links to every source of information I've shared with you on the air? It's all completely free and available over at thom.tv, THOM.tv. Check it out.
You were promised something, work hard, play by the rules, and you'd own a home, raise a family, retire with dignity. That was the deal, the American dream. So what happened to it? Well, here's the truth nobody told you. It didn't die, it was killed. And we know who did it, when they did it, and how they got away with it for almost 150 years. It starts with a lie buried in a court case in 1886. It runs straight through Reagan, and it's still robbing you blind right now. This wasn't bad luck. It was a crime, the greatest political crime ever told. Who Killed the American Dream? The Greatest Political Crime Ever Told. The new book by me, Thom Hartmann. It's time you knew who did it. Who Killed the American Dream by Thom Hartmann. Welcome back, 35 minutes past the hour. So what's on your mind today? Let's pick up some calls here. Bob in Raisin, Texas. Hey, Bob, what's up?
Howdy, Tom, and smart listeners out there. Greetings from the biggest police state in the nation, as far as I know.
The fine state of Texas you're talking about?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, your Senate candidate there is kind of like make the police state great again. It's Ken Paxton. Amazing.
Yeah, he's the one leading the charge for the nation, as far as continue the crime wave and extend the powers of the guilty to do more.
There you
go. What I'm calling about was essentially your topic is the police state, and I've got a few items that I could bring up, but essentially one of the things I've noticed here, I would say that the police state is actually reinforced. And I mean, the police state itself is LEO, law enforcement
officer
systems and lockups. And I've even worked and inspected some lockups before, up in the middle of Texas and such like that. It's a growing concern and I mean, a major business here. And it's fueled by the oligarchs, essentially all the oil business and petrochemical and everything else. And essentially the brainwashing is continued by, not just Fox News, but everything people listen to right here on local news.
Yeah, and there's not, to the best of my knowledge, there's not a single progressive radio station on the air in Texas. Well, no, wait a minute. Let me fix that. I'm on the air in Houston on what are her? I forget the call sign. Anyway, we're on the air on the Pacifica station in Houston, but that's the exception. That's the one station
in Houston or if it's still there.
It is.
Listen to it.
Yeah,
I'm out of range right now.
Yeah,
but it's all internet right now, and the best thing we can do really here is YouTube, and then free speech TV if you get it on Dish or something like that.
Or you can also see it on online on the internet at freespeech.org. Yeah, no, I get it, Bob, and it's a increasingly barren media landscape, among other things. But we've got what we've got, and we've got to use it to fight back. It's just I don't see an alternative, Bob.
On your list, of things that the police state, are indicative of, and when you see, this is very analogous to the German. IG Farben, the Farben Group.
Yeah.
Are you familiar with that?
Yeah, IG Farben built and ran a number of the concentration camps, if my recollection is correct.
I actually worked for a company, Fortune 500 company here for 13 years that essentially was bought by an IG Farben Group descendant, Hearst.
Yeah, no, they're still around. By the way, KPFT is our station in Houston, our affiliate station, and I'm on there every day. They carry our show live. Bob, I got to move along, but thanks for the call. It's always nice hearing from you. I appreciate it. Debbie in Oxford, Michigan. Hey, Debbie, what's on your mind today?
Hi, Tom. I have to say I disagree with you and the media on Graham Plattner.
Okay.
I think Susan Collins, the man she's married to now, had an affair with him while his wife was dying, and when she died, he married her. Why aren't we talking about that?
Well, Susan Collins having that affair with a married man, and I've read the story, I don't know if it's true or not, I assume it is. That was like 50 years ago, wasn't it?
So what? she's still in office. Look at Trump. He's a born liar.
Yeah, well,
and
I got
a million people voted for him.
I got
a
that.
million people voted for him. And now
70
the
million,
media
actually.
is choosing who we can vote for. And I disagree. I ended my relationship with the Democrats yesterday. And I called Maine.
Over Grand
and I
Platinum.
hope that the Maine, yes, over Grand Platinum, because if they'll do it to him, they'll do it to Michigan. Look at how you talked about Abdul. Abdul's been his sign has been in my front yard for 2 months. It's up to me who to vote for. Nobody can tell me who to vote for.
But nobody's accusing Abdul El Sayed of rape. And
it doesn't matter. Rape.
Yes, it does.
Why didn't the woman go to the police? Why didn't she go to the police?
Well, first, 90 some odd percent of women who get raped, or some huge percentage, never go to the police.
That's her problem then. That's her problem.
Yeah.
If you don't tell somebody, that is your problem.
No.
How can anybody guess you were raped?
I
And
get
how are
it,
you gonna
Debbie,
prove
and
it
like I
now?
said, again, I don't want to litigate this any longer. I don't see any point in it because
I know nobody
he is
does
out.
because everybody's trying to tell us who to vote for, and that's why I'm going to be an independent.
Well, okay, good luck with that. But now is the time to move on, to move forward.
Maine should write him in. That's what they should do. Write him in.
Well, there's probably
and
some
prove
Mainers who
all of
will.
you guys that you can't take their vote.
There probably are, and by writing in his name, what you're doing is essentially voting for Susan Collins. But I get your outrage, Debbie. Thank you for sharing. Michael in Antelope, California. Hey, Michael, what's up?
Hey, Tom. First of all, I gotta do a shout out to the Atkins diet. I think not too long ago you commented about that. And before I read the book, my cholesterol was over 200. I read the book, went on it. Last 20 years, my cholesterol has been below 200, so it does work.
Oh, this is the high protein diet. Yeah. Apparently, there's some benefits to it. There's some downsides to it as well. But I'm not a dietary expert.
I don't know
what can I say?
Downsides, we'll talk about that next time. But what I wanted to talk about is I just heard this morning that this is the anniversary of Charlie Kirk's assassination.
Right. Yeah. And the guy was in court yesterday, the guy who is accused of the crime.
Yeah. And it's just a coincidence that I'm bringing this up because I've been hearing, I've been on YouTube a lot because of my TV gives me access to it. And regular TV is just, it's kind of mundane.
Yeah.
And I'm hearing a lot about this talk about they're trying to get the young people to believe that blacks are inferior to whites, and I'm like, what? And I'm a year younger than you, and I'm thinking, I thought we were past this, and so I wanted to just put out there that. We went through the Tuskegee experiment, the Tuskegee Airmen, back in World War II in 44. I'm not sure the date, but they wanted to prove once and for all that blacks were inferior to whites, and they got these black not academics, but college students.
Yeah, you're talking the syphilis experiments. Yeah. There are just some horrendous parts of our history, and frankly, we had a Democratic president, Woodrow Wilson, who was actively promoting, racism and eugenics. He screened in the White House the Birth of a Nation, the Klan recruiting film that led to an explosion of activity in the Klan, both back in the day, back prior to the 1960s,
right.
Both parties were pretty bad.
There's one factor. There's one fact that has never come out. I mean, they proved that the blacks could fly planes, but one thing that they didn't talk about is, and I learned this when I was in college back then, that they limited to 10% of blacks could be pilots. But they found that there were more blacks that were qualified to be pilots than whites, but they couldn't become pilots because they limited it to
because they had a quota. Yeah.
So give me a break.
Yeah.
And when I told you your screener, Benjamin Banneker. You know about Benjamin Banneker? Because I hear the talk.
Yeah, I recognize the name. I don't recall why. I'm sorry.
Okay, because Lafayette, who laid out the D.C. plan, left because he got mad at the founding fathers, and Benjamin Banneker, who was black, was the one who laid out the plan.
I remember now. Michael, thank you. Thank you for all that. I appreciate it.
You're listening to Thom Hartmann. Visit ThomHartmann.com for audio and video archive.
It's 45 minutes past the hour. Back with more of your calls in just a minute. And welcome back. Brian in Tacoma, Washington. Hey, Brian, what's on your mind?
Yeah, I never understand people who come to the conclusion that they're so frustrated with the Democrats that they're going to not protecting them from the Republican policies and Trump, that they're going to not vote independent, or vote for Republicans. I'm so frustrated with the people who failed to protect me, so I'm going to aid with my vote or not vote the people who I'm trying to be protected from. That doesn't make
I know it's like the people who wouldn't vote for Kamala Harris because
no, I understand how you want to move on. I agree. I don't want to say whether he should or should not go. He's out, and I anyway. But why can't the Democrats in Maine come out and say, yes, we get our guys out? We don't support this. Plattner's out. Swalwell's out. We demand Donald Trump step down. We demand.
Well, that is what they're saying, Brian. That is what they're saying. That is what the institutional Democratic Party in Maine is saying.
That they demand Kavanaugh and Thomas are out. That Max Miller is out.
Oh well, those are not people that the Democratic Party put into place or could expel at the moment. But no, the Democratic Party of Maine has been taking a pretty strong position on this, and God bless them for it. They're in a really tough position, Brian. They really are. Brian, I got to move on, but thanks. Your points are well made. Thank you. Charles in Vancouver, Washington. Hey, Charles, what's up?
Hey, Mr. Hartmann, it's an honor, and happy Friday from across the bridge.
Thank you.
I had 2 points, but your screener who I talked to a few weeks ago told me that my Strait of Hormuz joke might have been a little crossing the line, but he told me you appreciated it, and I let you know I made it up.
Okay.
So anyway, sir, 2 pictures in my mind. One is Fetterman on Fox Garbage News, denigrating the Democratic Party in Maine, or as he's saying, standing behind a predator.
Yeah, and Fetterman is this generation's Kristen Sinema, you know.
Yeah, you genuflect to the biggest predator in American history.
Yep.
And then the other picture I have in my mind, sir, is when Trump was signing the college fund bill or whatever it was, and he had all those children to the right of him. And the youngest child, little boy, had a binky in his mouth.
Right.
And he looked up at Trump, and if a picture was worth 1,000 words, I say, yep, young man, you're standing right next to the biggest predator in American history.
There you go.
I mean,
I get it. I get it, Charles. Speaking of your joke on the straits, they're now calling the reflecting pool, in D.C., they're calling it the Strait of Warm Ooze. Charles, I got to run, but thanks for the call. We'll be right back. Find the Thom Hartmann program wherever you go. In addition to radio stations across the nation and Free Speech TV on Dish Direct and the Internet, we're also live on YouTube across most social media and Tom.tv every single weekday with clips and links as well. Corporate raiders, when they
acquire a company, basically strip it down. They take everything of value out of it, put it in their own pockets, leave just a husk of a company. I watched Bain Capital do this with Clear Channel. In fact, they just ran it into bankruptcy, and they run off with all the cash. Well, that's what Donald Trump is doing to America right now. He's basically behaving like a corporate raider, taking all the assets of this company and handing as many of them as possible off to billionaires and shutting down programs that benefit average working class people. This is an all billionaire cabinet, or largely billionaire cabinet, with a billionaire president, and they're dancing to the tune of the billionaires. It shouldn't surprise us, I suppose, but there's a whole article about it over in my Daily Take entitled "Trump's Hostile Takeover of America: The Corporate Raiders' Final Heist" over at HartmannReport.com. Check it out. Welcome back. Picking up your calls here. Matthew in Madison, Wisconsin, listening on Civic Media. Hey, Matthew, what's up?
Hello, Mr. Hartmann. Thank you for what you do.
My pleasure.
I wanted to comment on this police state stuff. So I am a Gen X, 50 years old. I was born in Miami, Florida, grew up there in the 80s. There were police around a lot because there's a lot of crime, drugs, all that stuff. It was a melting pot. But we had neighborhood watch people. We were always kind of on the edge of being surveilled. Mm-hmm. Then I moved to Madison, Wisconsin in 1989, I believe. And Madison has far less crime, a fraction of the crime. Yet we have tons of police here. Mm-hmm. I would be a teenager walking home at night from the college area to the home, and I would be stopped by multiple police cars just to check my backpack. You'd have campus police, Dane County police. Then you'd have Middleton police, which is a little town next to Madison, basically part of Madison.
Well, Matthew, there's a big difference between a state with a lot of police and a police state. I mean, in a state with a lot of police, you can argue that you're being over-policed or under-policed, but by and large, they're following the rule. In a police state, the police are not loyal to the law. They're loyal to dear leader, and that's a big difference.
Well, let me finish my thought here, because over my life, I've watched these wars in the Middle East, the huge military-industrial complex, all that money going into militarism. Then I watched these Trump years where you get Proud Boys, all these white militia groups, a lot of which, in my opinion, I don't know if this is true, but it seems like it's people who come back from war, want to play Army in the woods still. They're able to purchase a lot of this gear, and now it kind of feeds into what we're experiencing now. I don't know if you've heard of these FOC cameras.
Oh, yeah.
I watched this morning a police officer in Rhode Island got fired from the force because of his rejection of this, his concern about it. And they're using AI to document and facially recognize everyone. They know your car. They track your movement.
Oh, yeah, I know.
It's all related to Palantir, all this AI.
Yeah, it's hyper spooky. I wrote a book about this, The Hidden History of Big Brother. I share your concern, Matthew. And those are the things that come out as like, oh, we're using it for traffic and to catch bad guys. But they're so intrusive and so invasive that when you get somebody like a Hitler or like a Trump who's running the country, they become the weapons of oppression. And that's why you need to have really serious guardrails on them. And having giant corporations like, Palantir and whatnot, owned by right-wing billionaires, embedded into your state security systems is very, very dangerous. Matthew, thank you. Eileen in Marion, South Carolina. Hey, Eileen, what's on your mind today?
Hey, Tom. First of all, let me say, I admire you so much. I don't know how you do this day after day. But anyway, I'm a Democrat. But here's what I think the Democrats have got to come together. When we talk about Republicans, we just talk about Republicans. We don't talk about moderate Republicans and progressive Republicans and socialists.
Yeah.
And what we're doing is we're handing it to the Republicans because we argue among ourselves about who should be this. Chuck Schumer should go. I don't believe that. But anyway, we've got to come together. This is not business as usual.
Yeah.
Republicans had those kinds of fights, 15 years ago, 20 years ago. And what happened was basically the Nazis took over the Republican Party. Or at least the far-right extremists took over we call them MAGA. That battle is happening now within the Democratic Party. And I see it as actually a healthy process. I realize that the downside to it, in particular over the last decade, has been that, Trump has become president. We've lost some elections. It has hurt us. But this thing about whether we're going to continue down the road that Franklin Roosevelt, Lyndon Johnson, and Jack Kennedy put us on of being a very progressive party that's here for the people, or whether we're going to go down the road that Bill Clinton and Barack Obama largely put us on of we're going to find a few big industries that we can be real friendly with, like insurance and banking. We're going to find some good oligarchs, and we're going to keep rolling in the dough. I think that's a legitimate concern or a legitimate debate that's happening within the Democratic Party, and it's got to shake out.
They've got to do it behind the cameras and without the microphones. Right. Do you know what the Webster Dictionary definition of socialism is?
No, I don't.
It's very close to. It's people do not have individual ownership. I know that's not what Mandani
that was
wants.
Marx's definition of the word back in 1850.
Yeah, but you know what? That's what the Republicans can use. Then they take it one step further and they say, oh, communism. We've got to stop doing that. What difference does it make if we're socialists or progressives? At this fight has got to be standing together.
I get that. And I have some concerns about the DSA, the Democratic Socialists of America, trying to go down the road that the Green Party went down of being a viable third party who's going to compete against the Democratic candidates for the votes of fascists, so the votes of people who are opposed to Republicans. And it concerns me tremendously, Eileen. I get it. On the other hand, Bernie has been saying all along he's a Democratic Socialist, and I love Bernie, and he was on this program every Friday for 11 years, so I get it. Eileen, thank you for the call. Up next, Congressman Khanna, the Vice Chair of the Congressional Progressive Caucus, the big guy here. He's going to be with us for the next hour, taking your calls in a National Progressive Town Hall meeting. Genuinely good man. Stick around. You're gonna find this fascinating.
You're listening to Thom Hartmann.
We say fight back!
Iran, forever war. Trump axes the FEC. Housing, sign the damn bill. Is McConnell alive? The Olympian Poolgate mystery update. And Fox News sharing Cupcakes communism. Good morning, this is the Commonwealth Report, news for the public, not the powerful. You can follow us at commonwealthreport.news. Is Trump dragging us into a forever war with Iran? The White House is bracing for a long fight with Iran. Israel's Channel 12 reports Trump pulled his national security team into the Oval Office this week to plan the next round of strikes. A U.S. official told the network the fighting could last anywhere from a couple of days to a month, depending on whether Iran keeps hitting commercial ships in the Strait of Hormuz. That same official said, quote, "We're going to slap them a bit." Washington is now weighing a naval blockade of Iranian ports. Nobody voted for this. Congress never authorized it. Oil prices are climbing, markets are sliding, and the men running this thing talk about slapping a country of 90 million people like it's a bar fight? Wars started this casually don't generally end quickly. Who referees an election when the referees get fired? Reuters reported Thursday night that Trump has fired the remaining 3 members of the Federal Election Commission 4 months before the midterms. The FEC enforces campaign finance law. It is already crippled by vacancies, too few members to even meet a quorum. Now nobody's home at all. This comes right after the Supreme Court threw out 90 years of precedent and handed the president near unlimited power to fire the heads of independent agencies, the very agencies Congress built to be independent from him. Reuters also reported the commission helps guide states on voting procedures and voting machine updates. Trump, who has never let go of his rigged election fantasies, wants federal control over mail-in voting and investigations of local election workers. He's firing the umpires. Then he'll tell you who won. Why won't Trump sign the housing bill on his desk? The median price of an existing American home just hit $440,600, an all-time record, according to the National Association of Realtors. And the bipartisan bill written to bring those prices down is sitting on Trump's desk unsigned. Congress passed the Road to Housing Act by crushing margins, 89-10 in the Senate, 358-32 in the House. Trump canceled his own signing ceremony, demanding Congress pass his voter ID bill first and dismiss the housing bill as a big yawn. Elizabeth Warren, who wrote it, with Republican Tim Scott, had a simpler message, quote, "Sign the damn bill." Amy Klobuchar said it's been sitting on his desk long enough. The bill becomes law Friday night, whether he signs it or not. Remember, he never wanted it. Weekend at Mitch McConnell's. Mitch McConnell hasn't cast a Senate vote since June 11th. He went into a Washington area hospital on June 14th, and nearly a month later, his office still won't say why, how he's doing, or when he's coming back. A Republican congressman from Indiana went on television Thursday and asked out loud whether the 84-year-old is even alive. Emergency call audio, first reported by journalist Desiree Townsend, described responders giving CPR to someone in cardiac arrest at McConnell's address that day. His name isn't in the recording. His office won't discuss it. Kentucky's governor wrote asking for answers, saying office holders owe voters, quote, clear communication about one's ability to serve. The Senate comes back Monday, and McConnell still chairs the defense spending panel. A man can vanish for a month, and nobody in power blinks. They indicted an Olympian for touching water. Free Davey. Davey Hearn is 67 years old and a three-time Olympic canoeist. He stopped at the Lincoln Memorial reflecting pool during a 64-mile bike ride, reached in and touched a chunk of peeling blue sealant. National Guard troops and park police held him for 5 hours. A grand jury indicted him on a felony. He faces up to 10 years in prison. Thursday, he pleaded not guilty while supporters packed the courthouse, chanted his name, and waved signs renaming it the Deflection Pool. Trump's multi-million-dollar renovation has been peeling, blooming algae, and running green for months. They're draining it again, the second time in 3 months. Hearn's attorney, Norm Eisen, put it plainly, quote, "It's not a crime to touch the reflecting pool. The pool fell apart on its own. The only suspect they could find was a guy on a bike." Crazy alert. Is sharing cupcakes the gateway to communism? On Fox News Thursday night, guest host Charlie Hurt warned viewers about commie radicals surging through Democratic primaries. His Exhibit A, a campaign ad where Michigan Senate candidate Abdul El Sayed sits with a circle of school kids. He tells them that if you have something, you ought to share it. Then he asks them to imagine owning 1 billion cupcakes. Could they eat all billion? The kids say no. They get a stomachache. That's the whole clip. Hurt says El Sayed is, quote, already hard at work indoctrinating your kids, then gives the camera a sour look. A grown man watched a kindergarten lesson about sharing dessert and saw Karl Marx? Laugh, then stop laughing. Millions of Americans are being trained to hear basic decency as a foreign ideology. Sharing your cupcakes isn't communism, it's kindergarten. And that's the way it is today, Friday, July 10th, 2026. I'm Thom Hartmann.
We say fight back!
Did you know that every weekday we send out an email before the show giving you all the topics coming up so you can be fully informed and ready to interact with our program? Or that after the show we send out Sue's Stack, a list of every topic I've discussed along with clickable hot links to every source of information I've shared with you on the air? It's all completely free and available over at thom.tv, THOM.tv. Check it out.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
Hey, welcome back to the second hour of our program. Congressman Khanna was going to be with us for this hour to take your calls, but he hasn't shown up yet. And Sean is trying to track down his people. We're unsure what's going on. There might be, every now and then with members of Congress, this has happened before. It used to happen from time to time when Bernie was on regularly, where some committee meeting or some vote happens or whatever, but typically they let us know. So I'm not sure what's going on. So given that I had set aside this hour for basically, anything goes with Congressman Khanna, if he doesn't show up, if he does show up, we'll pop him right on the air, of course. If he doesn't show up, if there's some screw up here, I'm going to turn it into anything goes with me. So my apologies that you don't get the vice chair of the Congressional Progressive Caucus, but I'll do my best. Bob in Raleigh, North Carolina. Bob, what's on your mind today?
Oh my! Well, do your best Ro Khanna imitation. How's that?
That would be tough. He's a good guy. He's good.
Well, then I'll do a two-part question, and that'll be one was the question I was going to ask him, and hey, you'll fill in. Our good friends at Doge, and I was going to ask him about accountability, but also two parts. One is, who was on the congressional oversight? Because I know one of my senators, Senator Budd, was on it, and he extolled the virtue about we're going to learn all this and that. And what I'm trying to do is get some folks to go in there, if we can get in to see him, actually. Of course, we'll talk to an aide. But the point being is that, A, did you not know how sensitive this data was? And I can say I've had experience with like forensic computing, a little bit of experience with this. So this is like incredibly important stuff. And Alex Lawson brought that up during your time away on the book tour. Number one. Number two is if you did know and you did nothing, then you were complicit. Yeah. And that the question for the congressman was going to be, how do you hold members of Congress when it's blatant? If they're incompetent, that's one thing, but in compliance, compasses is another. And then the third thing would be, or the second thing really would be, for all those who got the data, and this includes Mr. Musk and everybody on down and up, they need to be held accountable. And jail time is good.
Yeah. The House Oversight, I get your rant. The House Oversight Committee, the chairman, of course, is James Comer. We call him Comer Pyle. Okay. But the ranking member, the top Democrat, is Robert Garcia. He represents the 42nd District of California. Okay. And Eleanor Holmes Norton from D.C. Has secondary seniority, although she can't vote. I think she can vote in committee. I'm not sure. Stephen Lynch, Massachusetts, is number 3. Raja Krishnamurthy, number 4. Ro Khanna is number 5. And so it would have been a great question for him. But you can find the list online. But beyond that, Bob, I don't have any. It would be better, rather than trying to ask me the question that you might have for Khanna, if you have a question for me or a comment that you want to make, just to do that. And, let me say that to everybody else.
Sure. I guess the comment would be when he comes on to say, we really need to, and I've talked to people because I canvass for the Democratic Party here in North Carolina, the most gerrymandered state in the country, but we are still going to pull things out. The question would be people wanting accountability, and a plea deal for 500 million felonies is not going to be going over like, well, you need to do a little time here, or, like a club fed is not going to work. These guys need to do jail time, and this goes especially for Mr. Musk and his.
I suspect this was a big debate in the early days of the Biden administration. I mean, Merrick Garland basically pissed away 2 years that he could have thrown Donald Trump in prison. I sure hope the Democratic Party doesn't go through that self-flagellation exercise all over again. Bob, thanks for the call. Raymond in Arcata, California. Hey, Raymond, what's on your mind today?
Oh, good morning, Tom.
Morning.
Actually, when I called in, I was told that Rep. Khanna was going to be on, and that caught me by surprise. And I was like, oh, what am I going to ask him? But now that it's not you, I can go back to my original topic.
Okay, great.
But first of all, I want to thank you, and I'm glad that you had a good vacation, and happy that you're back. I just want to touch on a couple of things that were talked about yesterday, and that were touched on today, too. One is I hope that whoever is chosen to replace Graham Plattner in Maine, that they follow, whoever's chosen follows that platform. Like Graham Plattner, he's toast. I mean, dirtbag. You know, if this is true, dirtbag. You know, but voters in Maine voted for that platform, and if the Democratic Party sticks a centrist in there to replace, that would be very,
it'll be
very
suicide. I agree. I think that it seems like there's a consensus forming around Troy Jackson. The former Senate leader, he's a Democrat, he's a progressive, he doesn't, his skeletons have been thoroughly examined, shall we say. And I think that Plattner, frankly, by just flatly denying this, if he instead had come out and said, I was going through PTSD. I was drinking way too much. I was having blackouts. If I did that when I was blackout drunk, I'm sincerely regret it and I apologize. I don't have any recollection of it. I don't think I did because I'm not that kind of person, but you never know when you're drunk. And if he had said something like that, I think he could have salvaged his reputation. But I suspect right now that, with all these firm denials and pointing fingers and stuff, that even his friends are abandoning him. Forget about politics. The guy is screwing himself right now, in my opinion.
I did not like that video he released. I thought that was pretty bad. Also, yesterday, someone brought up forced arbitration on the program yesterday. And I think that these forced arbitration clauses and right-to-work laws and at-will employment, these three things are just as much a threat to our democracy as things like voter suppression and things like that.
Well, they're certainly a threat to our middle class. That's how Reagan took down the middle class.
All workers.
Because he took us from 1/3 unionization down to 10% in just 12 years. Him and George Bush. I get it, Raymond.
The principle behind these things are the same intent as behind voter suppression laws. And
which is power for the oligarchs and the corporations. I get that. Raymond, thank you. Well said. Tom in Media, Pennsylvania. Hey, Tom, what's on your mind today?
Yeah, hi, how you doing? I was going to ask, Ro Khanna, well, first of all, according to the Pew experts, the middle class is 51% of the population. Maybe when Mr. Pocan didn't know that, but this is my point. We're 51% of the population, and we've got no problem, I don't think, with raising taxes on billionaires and all, but we want to see a permanent return for the middle class that at least is going to outpace the inflation or reduction of our retirement benefits that any bills could cause. And I was going to ask Mr. Khanna in his bill, the make the billionaires pay their fair share act.
Yeah, we just heard from his people, by the way, that he got pulled into an emergency meeting and probably won't be available, during the rest of this hour. I have a few more details, but I'm not sure I can say them on the air. But it sounds like it's a big deal. So anyway, God bless him. But what's the point you're trying to make, Tom?
Yeah, the only big benefit for the middle class in this bill, it's a 10-year bill, is it ends after the first year, and then all the other stuff continues. Would he be willing to rewrite this thing to give the middle class, make the middle class benefits permanent like everything else? And also, if the bill's not going to pay for itself, is he going to reduce the cost of this bill by reducing programs, or is he going to raise another tax?
Tom, I have no idea. And let me say to everybody on hold right now, please don't ask me the question you were going to ask Ro Khanna, because I'm not Ro Khanna and I can't answer it. But Tom, next time he's on, he's on every other week more or less, and so just hang on to it. Lily in Sacramento. Hey, Lily, what's up?
Oh, hi.
Hey.
Can you hear me okay?
I can, yes.
Awesome. My question is, just a little bit of history. You remember when Bernie was a potential candidate, and he had the backing of progressives, independents, and also the youth.
You're talking 2016?
In my opinion, if they would have allowed him to run and be an actual candidate and supported him, she would have won. We wouldn't be here right now.
I absolutely agree with you, Lily. 100%.
But here's the thing. And nobody seems to be talking about this, and it just blows my mind. The reason that he was not allowed to be a potential candidate where he got support was because of superdelegates.
Mm-hmm.
And I associate
part.
superdelegates with like the Electoral College.
Yeah, they're kind of the oligarchs of the Democratic Party.
Why? Why do we have them?
That's a debate that's going on inside the Democratic Party right now. Yeah. No, I'm with you, Lily. It's a debate going on inside the Democratic Party right now. I get the argument that, hey, this is a club, and the people who have given a lot of their lives to the club deserve to have some special, treatment and maybe a little extra power. I get that argument, frankly, but I'm still not a fan of it. Lily, I got to run, but thank you for the call. We'll be right back.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
Hey, it's Anything Goes weekend, and we're just picking up your calls here. Whatever's on your mind, I'll be right back with your calls. And welcome back, Joe in San Jose. Hey, Joe, what's on your mind today?
Hey, formerly from Cupertino, Tom. I'm glad you're back.
Thank you.
I just wanted to express my condolences to Mr. Smith. His father was a great
Joe,
man.
I'm having a bit of a hard time understanding your words because of the echo. If you could turn off the speakerphone or just get your mouth right up close to the microphone, it would make a huge difference.
Okay, how's this?
That's great. Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Like I said, I was expressing my condolences for Mr. Smith. His father was a great man.
Oh, yeah.
And it really will.
Yeah, Jefferson, yeah.
Well, I'm sorry we missed Bro, but I was going to ask you a question.
Mm-hmm.
And I understand that you're supporting Pritzker. And I think that that's something that we need to discuss.
Well, tentatively, I haven't endorsed anybody, but I really like J.B. Pritzker. We're a long way away from a Democratic primary.
Well, with November, or should I say Monday's a big day because Monday's filing period for the midterms. Mm-hmm. And it starts, and so we've got to circle the wagons and find the candidate, and all of us get behind it. Mm-hmm. I don't think we should be divided with progressives versus moderates, or just that's us versus them. Mm-hmm. And that's the way I'm looking at it. But my question is, I guess, was going to be that since we had this last election, a lot of information was been discovered, I guess, that I didn't know about Ro Khanna. And I think it's really important to understand I was kind of naive in some of this respect, but our governor in California wants not to pass this billionaire tax in the state of California out of fear that people will leave California. But he's running, or should I say supposedly running on a national campaign that has the same concept of a billionaire's tax, but on a national level so that they don't migrate from one part of the state or the country to the other. So that being said, the billionaire class of people, Ro's probably one of the most wealthiest Congress people there is. I mean, his net worth is in the hundreds of millions of dollars.
Who's this that you're talking about?
It's not his money.
Who are you talking about?
What's that?
Who are you talking about
Mr. Khanna.
Oh, yeah, well, his wife was
Congressman
wealthy,
Khanna.
when he married her.
Well,
he himself
I understand that, but my wife's not wealthy. This state's common law. I mean, everybody's money is the
So
state.
what's your point, Joe?
Well, that would be, I think, a good suggestion is that maybe he could donate 5% of his gross net worth to some worthwhile.
Well, he's not a billionaire, and I think the point here is that Governor Newsom is saying that he doesn't want this 5% one-time tax on billionaires in California. Frankly, in my opinion, because he wants some billionaires to be supporting him running for president. And, it's kind of a Clinton-esque thing. He knows he's going to have some big money because running a national campaign is a tough thing in this era since the, 5 corrupt Republicans on the Supreme Court have legalized political bribery. So, it's going to be, and I get that, he's running for president. He's going to be facing some real challenges. And there's more billionaires in California than anywhere in the country. And a lot of them are very pissed off about this 5% tax. And so So you've got poor Gavin Newsom here trying to thread the needle. But how that's going to go. Ro Khanna is openly in favor of the 5% tax. And, and he's co-sponsored with Bernie, by the way, of a permanent, every year, a 5% tax on anything over $1 billion. So I get it. Joe, thanks for the call. It's 20 minutes past the hour. I'll be back with more of your calls in just a minute. Stick around. It's the Thom Hartmann Program. Talk media for the sane among us. We'll be right back. Find the Thom Hartmann Program wherever you go. In addition to radio stations across the nation and Free Speech TV on Dish Direct and the Internet, we're also live on YouTube across most social media and Tom.tv every single weekday with clips and links as well. It's no coincidence that the time in Europe when the church ran the continent, from around the 5th century to around the 15th or 16th century, that 1,000-year period is referred to as the Dark Ages. This is what happens when religion controls politics, when religion controls the state, the nation, and every nation of Europe was controlled essentially by the Catholic Church during that period of time. It got busted up with the Protestant Reformation in the 16th century. This was what the founders of this country very much knew about. George Washington refused to declare himself a Christian. Thomas Paine wrote an entire book embracing atheism. Ben Franklin fled Massachusetts as a teenager to escape the religious threats. And Thomas Jefferson went off on it regularly. There's a whole piece about how the Republicans are trying to impose a new dark age on America. It's all laid out, all the quotes and all the links over at HartmannReport.com. Check it out. 22 minutes past the hour. Picking up your calls here. Anything Goes weekend. What's on your mind today? Cody in New York City. Hey, Cody, what's up? Cody, you may be muted.
I was muted. I'm so sorry.
That's quite all right.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Brilliant opening piece today.
Thank you.
I hope you continue to hit on this point about the horrors of fascism, because the American people do not understand that we are on the brink of fascism.
Yep.
And they should make this election, the Democrats should make this election about, are we going to be fascism or democracy? And they're not doing it. And this is the big mistake that all these regimes in history, Hitler, Mussolini, Franco, the liberals were too mild leading up to it. Yeah. And by the time the liberals spoke up, it was too late.
Yep.
So I hope you keep doing it. Brilliant point. But the purpose of my call, Tom, is I wanted to mention, I know that Democrats are thinking that the midterm elections are going to save us, right? If we win the midterm elections, everything is going to be fine. But I have a real concern, and that is ICE and the detention centers. If the Democrats allow Trump to build his own private police force and his own private prison system, it will be too late, because he's going to use his police force and the prison system at the midterm elections to prevent the Democrats from taking control. He's going to arrest Democrats. And I know Democrats are thinking, well, that'll never stand. We'll get court orders. Trump's going to ignore court orders. He's going to throw the lawyers in jail. He's going to throw the judges in jail. This is how fascism works. It's coming. And nobody is talking about it. It is critical that the Democrats need to stop funding of ICE and the prison system now.
Yeah, I get all your points, Cody, and I agree with all of them. There was a meme going around 2 days ago. It popped up on X, and then from there went viral everywhere. And it looks like a Truth Social post by Donald Trump that says, we've got all this extra space in the ICE detention centers right now. We're building them as fast as we can. We can't arrest enough brown people to put in them. So, hey, let's put some of the communists in there also. And he never said it. It's not a real post. but it was so widely believed because it makes so much sense that that's the next step. And you've got this National Presidential Security Memorandum number 7 that was issued last year that says that people who are, quote, anti-capitalist, anti-Christian, or anti-American, whatever the hell that means, and Trump, of course, interprets that to mean anti-Trump, that those are the, quote, indicators of terrorism and domestic terrorism. So he has already put into place the equivalent of the old German enabling acts, that gave Hitler that power. He has given himself that power, and he has tried to use it in some cases. And Jeanine Pirro seems to be the big advocate for this in D.C., going after now, an Olympian who dared put his hand into the reflecting pool. The Strait of Ooze, Strait of Warm Ooze, and it's I'm saying it as often as I can on this program, and I know I've gotten criticized by some in the Democratic Party and even some in the radio business for saying for being an alarmist and for being way too far left or whatever. I think that these are really the critical issues of our time. I think this is the single most critical issue of our time. And
absolutely. Absolutely. Tom, let me just say, the liberals in the past, when they stuck their heads up and started saying the things that you were saying, in Germany and all these, they were criticized the same way by the Liberal Party. Yep. Oh, you're too extremist. Oh, you're too alarmist.
And in France, freaking out about Le Pen. Yeah. No, I get
Absolutely.
it. Absolutely.
We need you, Tom. Please keep doing it.
You got my word on it, Cody. They're going to have to haul me away. Cody, thank you for the call.
Thank you, Tom.
Yeah, good talking to you. 27 minutes past the hour. We'll be back with more of your calls in just a minute. Stay tuned.
You're listening to the Thom Hartmann Program. Call 202-808-9925.
It's the place where smart people get their news. I'll be right back with your calls here on Anything Goes Weekend. Stick around. Iran, forever war? Trump axes the FEC. Housing, sign the damn bill. Is McConnell alive? The Olympian Poolgate mystery update. And Fox News sharing Cupcakes communism. Good morning. This is the Commonwealth Report, news for the public, not the powerful. You can follow us at commonwealthreport.news. Is Trump dragging us into a forever war with Iran? The White House is bracing for a long fight with Iran. Israel's Channel 12 reports Trump pulled his national security team into the Oval Office this week to plan the next round of strikes. A U.S. official told the network the fighting could last anywhere from a couple of days to a month, depending on whether Iran keeps hitting commercial ships in the Strait of Hormuz. That same official said, quote, "We're going to slap them a bit." Washington is now weighing a naval blockade of Iranian ports. Nobody voted for this. Congress never authorized it. Oil prices are climbing, markets are sliding, and the men running this thing talk about slapping a country of 90 million people like it's a bar fight? Wars started this casually don't generally end quickly. Who referees an election when the referees get fired? Reuters reported Thursday night that Trump has fired the remaining 3 members of the Federal Election Commission 4 months before the midterms. The FEC enforces campaign finance law. It is already crippled by vacancies, too few members to even meet a quorum. Now nobody's home at all. This comes right after the Supreme Court threw out 90 years of precedent and handed the president near unlimited power to fire the heads of independent agencies, the very agencies Congress built to be independent from him. Reuters also reported the commission helps guide states on voting procedures and voting machine updates. Trump, who has never let go of his rigged election fantasies, wants federal control over mail-in voting and investigations of local election workers. He's firing the umpires. Then he'll tell you who won. Why won't Trump sign the housing bill on his desk? The median price of an existing American home just hit $440,600, an all-time record, according to the National Association of Realtors. And the bipartisan bill written to bring those prices down is sitting on Trump's desk unsigned. Congress passed the Road to Housing Act by crushing margins, 89-10 in the Senate. 358 to 32 in the House. Trump canceled his own signing ceremony, demanding Congress pass his voter ID bill first and dismiss the housing bill as a big yawn. Elizabeth Warren, who wrote it, with Republican Tim Scott, had a simpler message, quote, sign the damn bill. Amy Klobuchar said it's been sitting on his desk long enough. The bill becomes law Friday night, whether he signs it or not. Remember, he never wanted it. Weekend at Mitch McConnell's. Mitch McConnell hasn't cast a Senate vote since June 11th. He went into a Washington area hospital on June 14th, and nearly a month later, his office still won't say why, how he's doing, or when he's coming back. A Republican congressman from Indiana went on television Thursday and asked out loud whether the 84-year-old is even alive. Emergency call audio, first reported by journalist Desiree Townsend, described responders giving CPR to someone in cardiac arrest at McConnell's address that day. His name isn't in the recording. His office won't discuss it. Kentucky's governor wrote asking for answers, saying office holders owe voters, quote, clear communication about one's ability to serve. The Senate comes back Monday, and McConnell still chairs the defense spending panel. A man can vanish for a month, and nobody in power blinks. They indicted an Olympian for touching water. Free Davey. Davey Hearn is 67 years old and a three-time Olympic canoeist. He stopped at the Lincoln Memorial reflecting pool during a 64-mile bike ride, reached in and touched a chunk of peeling blue sealant. National Guard troops and park police held him for 5 hours. A grand jury indicted him on a felony. He faces up to 10 years in prison. Thursday, he pleaded not guilty while supporters packed the courthouse, chanted his name, and waved signs renaming it the Deflection Pool. Trump's multi-million-dollar renovation has been peeling, blooming algae, and running green for months. They're draining it again, the second time in 3 months. Hearn's attorney, Norm Eisen, put it plainly, quote, it's not a crime to touch the reflecting pool. The pool fell apart on its own. The only suspect they could find was a guy on a bike. Crazy alert, is sharing cupcakes the gateway to communism? On Fox News Thursday night, guest host Charlie Hurt warned viewers about commie radicals surging through Democratic primaries. His Exhibit A, a campaign ad where Michigan Senate candidate Abdul El Sayed sits with a circle of school kids. He tells them that if you have something, you ought to share it. Then he asks them to imagine owning 1 billion cupcakes. Could they eat all billion? The kids say no. They get a stomachache. That's the whole clip. Hurt says El Sayed is, quote, already hard at work indoctrinating your kids, then gives the camera a sour look. A grown man watched a kindergarten lesson about sharing dessert and saw Karl Marx? Laugh, then stop laughing. Millions of Americans are being trained to hear basic decency as a foreign ideology. Sharing your cupcakes isn't communism, it's kindergarten. And that's the way it is today, Friday, July 10th, 2026. I'm Thom Hartmann.
Did you know that every weekday we send out an email before the show giving you all the topics coming up so you can be fully informed and ready to interact with our program? Or that after the show we send out Sue's Stack, a list of every topic I've discussed along with clickable hot links to every source of information I've shared with you on the air? It's all completely free and available over at thom.tv, THOM.tv. Check it out. You were promised something, work hard, play by the rules, and you'd own a home, raise a family, retire with dignity. That was the deal, the American dream. So what happened to it? Well, here's the truth nobody told you. It didn't die, it was killed. And we know who did it, when they did it, and how they got away with it for almost 150 years. It starts with a lie buried in a court case in 1886. It runs straight through Reagan, and it's still robbing you blind right now. This wasn't bad luck, it was a crime, the greatest political crime ever told. Who Killed the American Dream? The Greatest Political Crime Ever Told. The new book by me, Thom Hartmann. It's time you knew who did it. Who Killed the American Dream by Thom Hartmann. Between 1920 and 1980, America went from the middle class being about 10 or 12% of us up to being over 60% of us. what drove that was high taxation. High tax rates. Woodrow Wilson had 91% income tax rate. Franklin Roosevelt, 90% top income tax rate. Lyndon Johnson dropped it down to 74%. But from that, throughout that entire period of time, with the exception of the Roaring 20s, this is a brief little 10-year period, 12-year period, the top income tax rate was in the neighborhood of 74 to 90%. And what that did was it caused really rich people to leave their money in their businesses and pay their workers well, and that produced the middle class. Reagan came along and dropped that top tax rate down to 25% and then 27%, and it's now in the 30s, and that's what killed the middle class.
35 minutes past the hour, and we're picking up your calls here. Vince in Wellsville, Kansas. Hey, Vince, what's on your mind today?
Good day.
Hey.
This is just a premise of mine, and I don't know what I base it on, but if you look at all the things that have transpired and coming out of Washington for the last 2 years that make Americans uneasy, make us less secure, and hurt us financially, a lot of those things would not have occurred if Kamala Harris had been elected.
Correct.
And the main reason she wasn't, I believe in giving credit where credit is due, and I think the main reason she wasn't elected falls right in the laps of the bigots and the misogynists who wouldn't vote for her because, first of all, she was black and a woman.
Yeah.
And I think that's the whole story.
I don't think it's the whole story. I think that's a meaningful and significant part of the story, and I would love to have seen some genuine polling on this. The other issue that a lot of the polling shows, a lot of Democrats just didn't show up to vote because they were so upset about her and Joe Biden's position on supporting Netanyahu's just slaughter of Gaza. There's no way, Vince, that anybody in this day and age can deny that, there has not been a majority of white people who have voted for a Democratic candidate since Lyndon Johnson signed the Civil Rights Act and the Voting Rights Act in 64 and 65. It simply has not happened. And that's because of racism.
Unfortunately, racism is still a problem in our mixed culture.
It's not just a problem; it's a major cancer. It's a deadly poison.
And I don't know how to combat it, other than hoping that people's minds and their hearts will open to our own humanity and extending it out to all others. Yeah. And I don't know when that's going to happen.
Well, it's going to take work. I mean, the thing that both encourages and discourages me is this study that was done with rats. I mean, we're mammals, and mammals instinctively, recognize others of their kind, and social mammals in particular, like humans and like rats, tend to have a primary affiliation to family, or what you might call tribe. And in this research, and we did a whole show on this thing back 2-3 years ago when it came out, but in this research, these researchers took black lab rats and white lab rats. And when they mixed a bunch of black rats and white rats together in a cage together, and put some stress on them. In other words, there was too many rats for the space and not quite enough food. They really went at each other, and they kind of formed tribes, black versus white, white versus black. So then they took a bunch of a bunch of pregnant rats, black and white rats, and when they gave birth to the little rat pups, they took half the black rat pups from the black rat mother and gave them to the white rat mother, and took half the white rat pups from the white mother and gave them to the black rat mother. So each rat was raising 50-50 black and white pups together. And so all of these little babies, these little baby lab rats that were black and white, black or white, were all raised together. Then they redid the experiment and threw them into this tank, into this pen with and put the pressure on, jammed them in there and reduced the food supply. And they did not go after each other based on color, and at all. And that tells me that if it's true with lab rats, it's true with humans. That racism is learned. that tribalism is, yes, it's instinctual, but the aspects of it, the dimensions of it, the way it plays out, the way that we do it is learned. And that's why I think the efforts back in the 70s, particularly the 1970s, when we were going through this huge debate on forced busing and all this stuff in the late 60s, those were such important efforts of Lyndon Johnson's Great Society to try to essentially force, and I realize, it's not a happy word for most Americans, but to force some form of integration so that people would get to know each other. Integrating the military, big deal. Integrating the workplace, breaking the unions, whites-only restrictions that were very real right up until the 60s and 70s, and integrating the union movement. The union movement, of course, has been largely destroyed now by the Republican Party, by Reaganism. But, the union movement actually in the 70s and 80s started taking big strides toward trying to integrate workforces. We've got to do all that stuff. And the problem is that we're actually more segregated now than we were in 1965. Our churches, our schools, our communities, all three. So it's not going to be an easy thing, Vince, but I do think it's possible.
Well, God bless America.
Well said. Vince, thank you very much for the call and for the discussion on a really important issue. Morris in Inglewood, California. Hey, Morris, what's on your mind today?
Hey, Tom, listen to this now. They were mourning the loss of their Ayatollah. I'm talking about the Iranian community.
Sure.
And they're threatening to execute or assassinate Donald Trump and Bibi Netanyahu. Do you think they're just talking smack, or do you believe they'll follow through?
Oh, I think that they have been trying to take out both of them for at least 5-6 years. I think the Iranians have been going after Trump since he took out Soleimani in his first term. That was in 2020, as I recall, that he killed Soleimani, and maybe 2019. And I think they've always been after Netanyahu. I'm surprised they haven't had more close. That Netanyahu hasn't had more close encounters. The president of the United States is generally pretty hard to get to.
Let's talk about this situation in Turkey where the United States president decided to take Air Force One back home. He wanted to show off his brand new Qatar plane flying to Turkey, but he didn't take it back. And I believe that's because, Tom, there was some concern that they might blow that plane out of the sky. I'm talking about the Qatar plane.
Yeah, that's been leaked. That's been leaked, yeah. Because the real plane was built from scratch, and they built into the airframe the ability to withstand an electromagnetic pulse, the ability to throw chaff and stuff out that would ruin the radar in missiles that were honing in on the plane, and some specific defense capabilities that are still secret. But apparently, the real Air Force One actually can fight back, can shoot back. This Qatari plane was just a big, fat 747 that the Qataris were trying to get rid of. They tried to get rid of it for 4 years. They couldn't. It was a white elephant. Nobody wanted to buy it. So they decided to dump it on Donald Trump, and he took it as a giant $400 million bribe. But yeah, it's been leaked now, and the administration's really pissed that the reason he took the real Air Force One was because they were concerned that the Iranians might try to shoot it out of the sky. Because Turkey shares a border with Iran.
Well, I'll tell you this, Tommy. I also remember the false flag USS Liberty. Had that plane been shot out of the sky, the Qatar plane, now we're really going to war with Iran. We would have put that on the Iranians. There's nothing they could have said that could have denied it. And Netanyahu would have got everything he wanted. We would have won full balls out on Iran if that had happened. Now, I'm going to leave you with this, Tom. Who was it that said, he said, I just think I just handed the South to the Republican Party. Who said that?
Yeah, there was Lyndon Johnson talking to Bill Moyers. In fact, Bill Moyers told me that story at dinner at Norman Lear's house. That was LBJ to Lyndon Johnson. Yeah.
Let me let you go, my brother. Nice talking to you, Tom.
Good, always good talking to you, Morris. Thanks so much for the call. Merlin in Capitola, California. Hey, Merlin, what's on your mind today?
Hey, Tom, good to see you. I appreciate your show very much. And thanks for putting me on the air. Listen, I got 3 short issues on how I think the Democrats could not lose an election. Just do 3 things, the things that really matter to most Americans. 1, crack down on the border, make sure that it's tight and not way open. 2, double Social Security. And 3, Medicare for all. Lucifer would get elected if he had those things running for him.
I think you're probably right, Merlin. And this story that Biden opened the border and that Obama opened the border, these are just lies, that the Republicans promote.
But
I get it, that people, I think every country understands that if you have, illegal immigration into a country that exceeds, some measurable portion of the population, the number I've seen is around 1.5%, then you start getting a backlash from your populace. That some of it is driven by things like racism. A lot of it is just, culture shock, as it were. But the Democrats, they've been reluctant to be as aggressive. Although Obama was deporting people. Obama deported more people in each of his 8 years than Trump did in any of his first 4 years. I mean, Trump is now beating Obama's numbers, but that, Obama got criticized for that. He was called the deporter in chief. So it's a tough one. Merlin, thank you. Excellent points all. And I think you're absolutely right. 45 minutes past the hour. 46 minutes actually now. We'll be right back.
You're listening to Thom Hartmann. Visit ThomHartmann.com for audio and video archives.
It's Anything Goes weekend. Picking up your calls. I'll be right back with you. And welcome back. Dillian in Pinehurst, Idaho. Hey, Dillian. Am I saying your name right?
It's D-Y-L-A-N. It's Dylan.
Oh, Dylan. I'm sorry.
Thank you for taking my call. I'm a big fan, Tom. I got a question for the collective. I'm an activist out here in Shoshone County and the Idaho Democratic Party and whatnot. We are just getting crushed by this big flow of outsider, money coming into the state. And, as much as I think repealing Citizens United is a great idea, do we need to work towards public funding of elections, or do we need to find a sort of Canadian way of managing our elections? Because even McCain, Feingold, and the rules that preceded that, I don't think they're ideal for democracy to reign. So this is kind of a collective question. But we come from Shoshone County, historically strong union territory. You got the miners union out here, and the party officials have been telling me that they've been running dry, and so we got to find a way to deal with this. What's your thought on that?
I agree. Money in politics is the cancer in our political system. We tried to remove it on multiple occasions. Teddy Roosevelt in 1908 got passed what was called the Tillman Act, which made it a federal felony for any corporation to put any money into any candidate for federal office anywhere in the country. That stood until it got repealed by Citizens United. Actually, it might have been repealed in 78 by the Bellotti decision. But anyhow, it was repealed by an all-Republican vote in one of those two decisions in our era, in the modern era. We then in 74, 75, 76, after the Nixon scandals, we learned that Nixon was actually taking bribes in the White House, as was Agnew. We passed, and the Church Committee's investigations and Sam Ervin and all that kind of stuff. We passed strong legislation, bipartisan legislation, Republicans and Democrats together, that was signed into law by Jerry Ford, a Republican president, to put absolute limits on campaign donations, both corporate and personal. And those all got blown up with Citizens United in 2010. And that is in my opinion, a crime against democracy. And they were blown up. It was a 5-4 decision, and the deciding vote was Clarence Thomas, who had already taken millions of dollars in gifts and trips and tuition for his kid, and his wife was on taking a huge salary from Heritage and all this kind of stuff.
Must be a nice yacht.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, here you got a member of the Supreme Court on the take, and he's the deciding vote in a decision that says that it's okay for billionaires to bribe judges and politicians. And then, the outrage, I forget the name of the decision, what was this, 3 years ago, where they said that if you pay a bribe after the guy does your favor rather than before, it's no longer a bribe, it's a gratuity, it's a tip. And, which involved
that was outrageous.
Yeah, and so, these corrupt Republicans, and not a single Democrat on the court has ever voted for any of this stuff on the Supreme Court, all the way back to 1978. These were all 5-4, all Republican decisions. And what these Republicans on the Supreme Court is, I wrote a book about this, The Hidden History of the Supreme Court, The Betrayal of America. What these Republicans on the Supreme Court have done is essentially turn America into an oligarchy where the richest people basically make all the decisions. And that's why we don't have Medicare for all. It's why we don't have strong Social Security. It's why we don't have a strong union movement. It's why we're losing our worker and environmental protections. And it's a tragedy. Dylan, I got to run, but thanks for the call. It was a great question. Find the Thom Hartmann program wherever you go. In addition to radio stations across the nation and Free Speech TV on Dish Direct and the Internet, we're also live on YouTube across most social media and Tom.tv every single weekday with clips and links as well. Human beings have a couple of unique characteristics. The first is that we can be very tender and loving and concerned and caring toward people we perceive as being our group, us. We can also be extraordinarily violent against people that we consider to be them, if we think of them or this other as a threat. Probably the classic example of this is Adolf Hitler convincing Germans that, Jews were a threat to them and good Germans going along with the Holocaust. Well, this othering is built into our DNA. This is, ancient stuff. And the Republican Party, since the time of Nixon, when he started, picking up the white racist vote after Democrats laid it down in the 60s, the Republicans have been using this to try to other minorities in America as a political strategy. And this is really deadly stuff. There's a whole op-ed about it over at HartmannReport.com. Is othering human nature's deadliest instinct? Check it out. Welcome back. 51 minutes past the hour. Picking up your calls here on Anything Goes Weekend. TJ in Grand Forks, North Dakota. Hey, TJ, what's up?
Hey, happy Fun Friday, Tom.
There you go. Back at you, TJ.
Yep. A lot of good stuff today on your program. I'm really concerned about a lot of stuff, but I remember back maybe a year ago where this Trump guy said people want a dictator.
Yeah.
And he was over in Europe someplace. Well, he's acting, to me, as close as the dictator that I've ever seen, with all these executive orders and, spending all this money and going into Iran without Congress really approving it. And it's just like, it feels like Congress is out fishing.
Yeah. Well, what you have is a guy who came up in the business world, and the business world is like kingdoms. The businesses are not democracies. I mean, there are exceptions, but by and large, businesses are kingdoms. And the CEO or the person who owns the most stock or the head of the board of directors or whatever, behaves like a king, and that's Donald Trump's whole entire life. And I don't think he ever read the Constitution. I don't think he ever took a single course in civics. And if his record shows he took one in college, I'd bet $50 that somebody sat in for him, because he clearly doesn't understand how a democracy is supposed to work, and is trying to turn America. He's acting like Mad King Ludwig, the second of Germany, with who built Neuschwanstein. He's all about his ballrooms and his arches, and not about doing the people's work.
Yeah, it's terrible. I mean, I guess I'd like to somehow get the Democrats, even a minority, to stand up.
Yeah,
and get vocal. Stand up.
Yeah, they are, and they literally hold a press conference every day. The media just by and large ignores the Democrats. There was this weird thing back. This was during the Obama presidency, where the media was surveyed. There was a survey of media executives, and they were asked why it was it that during the George W. Bush presidency, on the Sunday shows, there were more Republicans than Democrats in every case. And the answer was, well, because the Republicans are in power, and so we need to hear from them. And then Obama became president, and there were still more Republicans than Democrats on all the Sunday news shows. And so the question again was put out, why more Republicans than Democrats? And the response that they got was, well, because the Republicans are out of power, and so we need to hear from the opposition. So what we've got is basically structural right-wing, stuff built in. And now you've got, of course, right-wing Nepo baby billionaires buying up networks. So it's a mess. TJ, thank you for the call. CC in Northbrook, Illinois. Hey, CC, what's up?
Happy Friday, Tom.
Back at you.
That presentation you did Monday, I have to give you a big thumbs up. It was called "We Will Not Pretend Anymore," and I just want to commend you on that because you just put words in my head that always knew. And so just commend you on that.
For people who don't know what we're talking about, just real quickly, CC, I was essentially saying we're not going to pretend to our still fervent MAGA friends and relatives, we're not going to pretend that we like them anymore. We're not going to pretend that they're our friends anymore or that we respect them. We're just not going to pretend anymore. Back to you.
Yeah, and you can go even farther than that because they live in a pretend world.
Yeah.
Anyway, strategy. I asked Mark Pocan about strategy because I'm not, I think it's a little bit more complicated now because you see the strategies in place. This is just January 6th, part 2 is coming up.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think that hope and optimism is a strategy. But I have a thought, and I just wanted to bounce it off to you. What my strategy in my head is that John Brennan, the CIA director, I think have a good strategy, and I think a lot of other people should take note and probably follow suit. Because what that does is Brennan is suing the Trump administration for the records that they have obtained, and that's a good suit.
He wants to prove that they are selectively prosecuting him not based on crimes, but based on Trump not liking him.
Thank you. And so I'm saying that I'm going to give another example, and this one's active. The Smithsonian director, Trump is attacking the Smithsonian right now, and I think he's accusing them of white activism, whatever that is, transgender.
It's because the Smithsonian dares to discuss in some of their museums the horrors of slavery and the Native American genocide.
Right. So John, I think his name is Lonnie Bunch. Mm-hmm. I think he should be proactive and file his lawsuit right now because obviously. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, I absolutely do, CC. It may well come to that, and I think you're pointing out what Brennan is doing is an important one. I've only mentioned it briefly on this program, but it is a big deal, and I hope more people do it. CC, I got to run, but thank you so much for the call. On the other side of the break, weekend at Mitch McConnell's.
You're listening to Thom Hartmann.
Iran, forever war. Trump axes the FEC. Housing, sign the damn bill. Is McConnell alive? The Olympian Poolgate mystery update. And Fox News sharing Cupcakes communism. Good morning, this is the Commonwealth Report, news for the public, not the powerful. You can follow us at commonwealthreport.news. Is Trump dragging us into a forever war with Iran? The White House is bracing for a long fight with Iran. Israel's Channel 12 reports Trump pulled his national security team into the Oval Office this week to plan the next round of strikes. A U.S. official told the network the fighting could last anywhere from a couple of days to a month, depending on whether Iran keeps hitting commercial ships in the Strait of Hormuz. That same official said, quote, "We're going to slap them a bit." Washington is now weighing a naval blockade of Iranian ports. Nobody voted for this. Congress never authorized it. Oil prices are climbing, markets are sliding, and the men running this thing talk about slapping a country of 90 million people like it's a bar fight? Wars started this casually don't generally end quickly. Who referees an election when the referees get fired? Reuters reported Thursday night that Trump has fired the remaining 3 members of the Federal Election Commission 4 months before the midterms. The FEC enforces campaign finance law. It is already crippled by vacancies, too few members to even meet a quorum. Now nobody's home at all. This comes right after the Supreme Court threw out 90 years of precedent and handed the president near unlimited power to fire the heads of independent agencies, the very agencies Congress built to be independent from him. Reuters also reported the commission helps guide states on voting procedures and voting machine updates. Trump, who has never let go of his rigged election fantasies, wants federal control over mail-in voting and investigations of local election workers. He's firing the umpires. Then he'll tell you who won. Why won't Trump sign the housing bill on his desk? The median price of an existing American home just hit $440,600, an all-time record, according to the National Association of Realtors. And the bipartisan bill written to bring those prices down is sitting on Trump's desk unsigned. Congress passed the Road to Housing Act by crushing margins, 89-10 in the Senate, 358-32 in the House. Trump canceled his own signing ceremony, demanding Congress pass his voter ID bill first and dismiss the housing bill as a big yawn. Elizabeth Warren, who wrote it, with Republican Tim Scott, had a simpler message, quote, "Sign the damn bill." Amy Klobuchar said it's been sitting on his desk long enough. The bill becomes law Friday night, whether he signs it or not. Remember, he never wanted it. Weekend at Mitch McConnell's. Mitch McConnell hasn't cast a Senate vote since June 11th. He went into a Washington area hospital on June 14th, and nearly a month later, his office still won't say why, how he's doing, or when he's coming back. A Republican congressman from Indiana went on television Thursday and asked out loud whether the 84-year-old is even alive. Emergency call audio, first reported by journalist Desiree Townsend, described responders giving CPR to someone in cardiac arrest at McConnell's address that day. His name isn't in the recording. His office won't discuss it. Kentucky's governor wrote asking for answers, saying office holders owe voters, quote, clear communication about one's ability to serve. The Senate comes back Monday, and McConnell still chairs the defense spending panel. A man can vanish for a month, and nobody in power blinks. They indicted an Olympian for touching water. Free Davey. Davey Hearn is 67 years old and a three-time Olympic canoeist. He stopped at the Lincoln Memorial reflecting pool during a 64-mile bike ride, reached in and touched a chunk of peeling blue sealant. National Guard troops and park police held him for 5 hours. A grand jury indicted him on a felony. He faces up to 10 years in prison. Thursday, he pleaded not guilty while supporters packed the courthouse, chanted his name, and waved signs renaming it the Deflection Pool. Trump's multi-million-dollar renovation has been peeling, blooming algae, and running green for months. They're draining it again, the second time in 3 months. Hearn's attorney, Norm Eisen, put it plainly, quote, "It's not a crime to touch the reflecting pool. The pool fell apart on its own. The only suspect they could find was a guy on a bike." Crazy alert. Is sharing cupcakes the gateway to communism? On Fox News Thursday night, guest host Charlie Hurt warned viewers about commie radicals surging through Democratic primaries. His Exhibit A? A campaign ad where Michigan Senate candidate Abdul El Sayed sits with a circle of school kids. He tells them that if you have something, you ought to share it. Then he asks them to imagine owning 1 billion cupcakes. Could they eat all billion? The kids say no. They get a stomachache. That's the whole clip. Hurt says El Sayed is, quote, already hard at work indoctrinating your kids, then gives the camera a sour look. A grown man watched a kindergarten lesson about sharing dessert and saw Karl Marx? Laugh, then stop laughing. Millions of Americans are being trained to hear basic decency as a foreign ideology. Sharing your cupcakes isn't communism, it's kindergarten. And that's the way it is today, Friday, July 10th, 2026. I'm Thom Hartmann.
We say fight back!
Did you know that every weekday we send out an email before the show giving you all the topics coming up so you could be fully informed and ready to interact with our program? Or that after the show we send out Sue's Stack, a list of every topic I've discussed along with clickable hot links to every source of information I've shared with you on the air? It's all completely free and available over at thom.tv, THOM.tv. Check it out.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
And welcome to the third hour here on Anything Goes Weekend. A couple of quick stories here I wanted to share with you, and then I'll get to your phone calls. Is Mitch McConnell even alive? There's some alarming video that has come out. Apparently one of his neighbors stuck a camera up to the window as he was being hauled away in an ambulance back on, June 14th or something like that. And he did not have an oxygen mask on. So, I mean, typically that means one of two things. Either he's fine, like the CPR actually worked, or he didn't really need CPR, and he was breathing on his own, and he just, fell over and something happened, although he seemed unconscious. So that either means he's fine, or it means he's dead. I just don't know. I'm guessing the fact that he wasn't, or maybe the oxygen tubes were so small, the little kind of ones that go underneath your nose, that it wasn't visible from the video. But Andy Beshear, the governor of Kentucky, who very much wants to become president, has written a letter to Mitch McConnell himself saying, "What's up, Mitch?" He said, "As governor, I request that you fully update Kentuckians regarding the current status of your health. As public office holders, we have made a commitment to our constituents to do our best to represent them and to always be transparent. I believe this requires clear communication about one's ability to serve." Now, you've got three Republicans. Two of them, one is John Thune, the head of the Republicans in the Senate, and the other is Scott Jennings, the CNN millstone, and former employee of Mitch McConnell, and one other, I'm forgetting who the third one is, who have said that they have had 15, 20-minute conversations with Mitch McConnell, which has now got social media going, hey, is it possible that somebody created a Mitch McConnell AI? I mean, it wouldn't be that difficult, frankly. AI can now imitate anybody's voice. There are boiler rooms in Southeast Asia where they are using AI-generated voices to call people. They'll like buy your information from data brokers or steal it off the dark web, and discover that you have you have a nephew who lives in Podunk, Iowa, or something like that, and they'll call the nephew and just talk to him on the phone enough to get his voice, and then they'll create this little AI thing that calls up, Aunt Marge and says, "Oh, Aunt Marge, I'm at the jail. I just desperately need you. Can you please bail me? Just give me your credit card number and everything will be fine." And it sounds just like him, right? I mean, this is literally happening right now. It's like the latest scam thing. And so, is that what's going on? Are people talking to an AI? Or is it that Mitch was not wearing oxygen because he's not that bad and he's actually sitting in bed, having conversations with John Thune? I have no friggin' idea. And that's the problem. We should know. I mean, the guy is like, he's the former Senate leader, Senate Majority Leader. He's the guy who you could argue altered America. He could have had Trump impeached and convicted, and thus we would not have Trump now. He could have allowed Merrick Garland to sit on the Supreme Court and turn it to a 5-4 Democratic court. I mean, but anyhow, we want to know. Meanwhile, there's this piece of legislation about housing that was passed with bipartisan support, both Democrats and Republicans. Everybody got all excited about this because the National Association of Realtors yesterday released its monthly report on home sales and home prices. The median sales price, half of homes are more expensive, half of homes are less expensive. So the median sale price of a home in the United States, and keep in mind, an awful lot of the United States is rural and cheap in terms of buying a house. The median price of a home in America right now is $440,600. That's a hell of a lot of money. So Congress passed this 21st Century Road to Housing Act. It prohibits Wall Street investors from buying single-family homes. It streamlines environmental reviews under the National Environmental Policy Act, so it's easier to build new homes and new subdivisions and things. It creates a $200 million annual competitive grant program to benefit communities that have demonstrated success in expanding their housing supplies. It was co-authored in the Senate by Elizabeth Warren and Tim Scott. Yeah, Tim Scott, the guy, the right-wing Republican from South Dakota or South Carolina, excuse me, who, at one point flirted with running for president. And it passed overwhelmingly in the House and the Senate. And Trump is saying, I'm not going to sign it. Well, my understanding is, unless he vetoes it, it becomes law tonight. And I don't think he's going to veto it because Republicans want to take credit for this, and there is a real crisis. But keep an eye on this. I mean, we'll know by tomorrow, right? Because he's got until midnight tonight, Eastern time. And finally, Free Davey is the new chant, as in, let him free. Davey is the guy, David Hearn is the guy who was an Olympic canoe racer. And he was on he's 67 years old. He was on a bicycle ride across the East Coast. In fact, it was something like, 20 miles or something. I mean, some amazing thing that this guy was doing. And part of his ride took him through Washington, D.C., and he stopped at the pool, and saw that there was some of this blue gunk floating in it, reached down and felt it with his fingers, and at that point, one of the park police or one of the ICE guys or National Guard, Trump's got the National Guard patrolling D.C., said, leave that stuff alone, don't touch that. And so he pulls his hand out, and he got, Jeanine Pirro, who is like doing her best imitation of a Nazi prosecutor. I mean, this is incredible. The efforts that she has made to go after people, and the courts keep saying, no, you can't just prosecute this person because you don't like them, or you can't just prosecute this person because Trump, paid off his big donor, Fat Cat to do the reflecting pool, and the guy screwed it up, or because Trump screwed it up by driving his car across it while the epoxy sealant was curing, which actually happened. I mean, we pretty much know who damaged the reflecting pool. It was Trump. He had a caravan. He had like 8 cars, including the Beast, the presidential one, which weighs, not just a ton. It weighs multiple tons because it's armored. It's bulletproof. And he drove it across the inside of the reflecting pool when it was drained. It's no wonder the thing is, the bottom is peeling off it. But Trump can't come up to that, so. Anyhow, right after Trump posted on his Nazi-infested social media site that this fellow, Davey Hearn, should, quote, spend years in jail, Jeanine Pirro runs out and goes, okay, let's prosecute him. And she actually gets a federal grand jury to indict him. Ryan Goodman, the co-editor-in-chief of Just Security, says this is a pattern of abuse of power by Pirro, whose previous job was as a C-level, I don't know, maybe she was an A or B level pro-Trump Fox host. The White House also claims that at least seven other people have been arrested for vandalism. And, who knows? We don't have the specifics on those things. Anyhow, it's 15 minutes past the hour. For the rest of the hour, I would love to hear what you have to say on this beautiful weekend. And so I'll be picking up your calls. 15 minutes past the hour is the Thom Hartmann program, a place where despair is not an option. I'll be right back with your calls. Stay tuned.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
Taking back the mainstream media 3 hours a day, 5 days a week, right here. We'll be right back. And welcome back. Picking up your calls here, Casey in Kingston, Washington. Hey, Casey, thanks for listening to KBCS. What's up?
Hey, happy summer, Tom.
Thank you. Back at you.
So that was brilliant what you had to say about Mitch, and I actually have some answers for you.
Okay.
This is my own conspiracy theory. The thing about Mitch that most people, and this is the reason why nobody's seen him, the thing that most people fail to understand is that taxidermy takes a long time. especially
Weekend
when
at Mitch's.
an animatronic insert is involved in, and you just decide what an animatronic insert. They have these like exhibits of huge dinosaurs, and I suppose turtles eventually at the museums. A friend of mine works at the California Academy of Sciences, and they were interviewing a new candidate for a curator position, and part of the cure was to walk through the museums, and they see these moving dinosaurs, and this guy made an astute observation. He said, none of these dinosaurs have a vent. And and they went on, and after a while he says, now I know why they got so big. And my friend Rich wanted to hire him on the spot.
Oh, that's great.
Anyway, back to Mitch. The thing that also about these, all of his animatronic, the minimum that his animatronic insert has to do is to be able to kind of stare like a deer in the headlights when he's standing at the podium, and always vote for whatever Trump wants and drool from the mouth. But, they developed this technology actually before the .com era and used it on the carcass of Chuck Grassley. Which is why he's still with us. And then here's the big thing: this drive to get all these data centers up so fast.
Yeah,
they're planning to do this with all of the Republicans, from Trump on down to your local county commissioner. And
this is why Musk is doing his neural implants, right?
Exactly. And it takes an entire data center to run one of these fascist cyborgs, and so they have the election in November in the 1-2 years, and we're looking at a dystopian future of being ruled by evil fascist robots instead of the lovely future that Robert.
Well, two quick points here, Casey. The first, one serious, one funny. I
hope you got a laugh out of that.
Yeah, it was good. Well, in fact, I don't know if you caught this, but Trump went to the Teddy Roosevelt Museum at Mount Rushmore, last week, and they've got an animatronic Teddy Roosevelt. It's run by AI. And Trump had this long conversation with him, and when he was all done, he said, "It's been an honor talking to you, President Roosevelt." I mean, it sounded, the clips of it, you can find some of the clips of it on he sounded like he actually thought he was talking to Teddy Roosevelt. So there's that. And then, of course, the serious thing is that it appears that keeping Mitch apparently alive, or at least apparently functional, until August 3rd is the goal here, because after August 3rd, Thomas Massie can't just step in and run for the Senate from Kentucky. And this is all about keeping Thomas Massie out of the way, because he's Trump's arch enemy. So we'll see. Casey, I got to run, but thanks for the laugh. That was a good one. 19 and a half minutes past the hour. I'll be right back with you. Stick around. Find the Thom Hartmann program wherever you go. In addition to radio stations across the nation and Free Speech TV on Dish Direct and the Internet, we're also live on YouTube, across most social media, and Tom.tv every single weekday with clips and links as well. Welcome back. 20 minutes past the hour. Picking up your calls here on Anything Goes Weekend. What's on your mind? Tom in Lincoln, Nebraska. Hey, Tom. What's up? Tom, I think you might be muted because I'm not hearing you. Going once, going twice. Keno in Lakeland, Florida. Hey, Keno, what's on your mind today?
Happy Frias Day, and may the Archangel Michael come and be with us who want to bring about goodness in society through democratic socialism. And a comment and a question. Comment is, you warned me the Advantage Insurance Company has canceled my prostate test I need, and I just heard there's a group of people writing a movie that might be used for a business plan later. The collusion of the Medicare Advantage companies, they got together and they decided that they'll sacrifice old men now to increase the salaries of the executives. They're going to let the old men deny and let die the old men with prostate problems. So I just heard that, and my insurance test that I needed got canceled. So who knows what's happening?
That's
anyway,
crazy. And a PSA test is not that expensive. I mean, it's got to be what, $100, $150, something like that for a PSA blood test, or I suppose if it's an exam, you know, of the old finger exam, no fun at all, right? That's probably a little more expensive. But still, you'd think that the insurance companies would want to take care of people, but they don't. They just want to make money. You're right.
All right, now, real quick, I got a question. I don't have a computer. How do I lobby Free Speech TV to start having a program to talk about the benefits of democratic socialism in the Nordic countries? And Anu Partanen, the Finnish journalist that wrote the book, The Nordic Theory of Everything, 2018 book, she should be on there. And how can I lobby? I don't have a computer. How can I lobby Free Speech TV, people that make the decisions? Would you advocate for me maybe? Or how do I get in touch with them if I don't have a computer?
Well, they monitor this program, and so I think you might have just done that. You know?
Okay, good.
All
the
righty.
Spirit of goodness. And Archangel Michael is going to come and help us that believe in doing good for people and what Jesus asked for in 25:35, Matthew 25:35. Archangel Michael is coming to help us.
He was my spiritual mentor, Gottfried Mueller. He was his favorite. He used to talk about Michael all the time. So, yeah, I get it. Keno, thank you. Thank you so much. Larry in Los Angeles. Hey, Larry, what's on your mind today?
Well, I want to start off where I left off a month ago about the Federal Reserve and corporations, the connection to fascism.
Yeah.
And including the Fed rate. Since 1957, January 20th of 1957, every Democratic Party candidate that stayed in the White House has seen the Fed increase the Fed rate from the beginning that they took time to the end. Every Republican has seen the exact opposite, the reverse. This is when the Fed became radicalized and started trying to get rid of Democrats in the White House.
Was there a particular person elected to the Fed Board of Governors, or was there? Do you understand how that happened?
It happened because the Republicans got tired of losing when FDR was president. As soon as they gained power, they changed the laws that Democrats would never be in the White House for another 20 years. And they also started changing the Fed to make sure that Democrats will spend the least amount of time in the White House as possible, to the point where now it is difficult for a Democrat to even go beyond 4 years in the White House, whereas Republicans since then has extended their power for 12 years.
Yeah, Eisenhower was president at that time. Yeah. No, I get it. I would love to have been a fly on the wall back in the day, but fascinating stuff, Larry.
And then Reagan and Bush are the only parties to see that extension go from 8 years to 12 years. The Democrats, now that we have quantitative easing, the Democrats couldn't even extend it beyond 4 years the last time, even though they set a record for jobs creation, set a record for the amount of points added to the Dow. And the Fed made sure that they got rid of Biden and Harris by jacking the Fed rate up, keeping it up for an extended period of time. And they started.
Well, Kevin, what's his name? The new guy, who's the new chairman of the Fed.
I don't know his name, by the way, but anyway.
I'm drawing a blank on his name, but in any case, he's between a rock and a hard place. I mean, they just released the minutes yesterday of Wednesday's Fed board meeting, or last Wednesday's Fed board meeting.
He's corrupt.
I'm sure I'm sure he's corrupt. He wouldn't be there if he wasn't. But if he keeps the Fed rate where it is or drops it, which is what Trump wants, he wants it dropped, then inflation is going to go nuts. And if he raises it, then Trump is going to go nuts. And so the last person on earth I would want to be right now is the chairman of the Fed. What say you?
Any Republican would love that position because that's how they got rid of Biden and Harris. And now that we're in another election season, the Fed has started putting quantitative easing back into the system.
Right. And thus we're seeing the stock market go up.
That's why the stock market is going up. Yeah. And then also the level that the Fed is sitting at right now is lower than it was when Clinton was president, when Clinton was seeing the markets go bananas.
Yeah.
They have put the Fed rate closer to the sweet spot, closer to the neutral area. Mm-hmm. And that area has never been, since Clinton was president, they never allowed another Democrat to see the Fed rate near where it is right now. Yeah. And they understand that keeping the Fed rate high towards an election means that people can't buy houses, they can't buy cars, they start seeing their life get difficult, and then the right track, wrong track dynamics all of a sudden shifts to the Republicans because people are saying, well, these Democrats are giving us a hard time, and we can't live anymore.
Yeah.
And that's the only reason why Republicans gained the White House in the last 30 years or so, is because the Fed is spiking the ball.
Yeah. Well, it makes a certain amount of sense. I mean, the flip side of it is that 10 out of the last 11 recessions came along during Republican presidencies, and those recessions might have, you could argue whether they were driven by the Fed or whether the Fed responded to them in the ways that you're describing, Larry. And
they were
driven by the Fed. Yeah, I get it. It's a conversation that I'd love to dig into a little more with you, but I'm out of time here. Larry, it's always great hearing from you. Thank you.
You're listening to the Thom Hartmann Program. Call 202-808-9925.
27 minutes past the hour. Anything Goes weekend. We'll be right back with more of your calls. Stay with us. Iran, forever war. Trump axes the FEC. Housing, sign the damn bill. Is McConnell alive? The Olympian Poolgate mystery update. And Fox News sharing Cupcakes communism. Good morning. This is the Commonwealth Report, news for the public, not the powerful. You can follow us at commonwealthreport.news. Is Trump dragging us into a forever war with Iran? The White House is bracing for a long fight with Iran. Israel's Channel 12 reports Trump pulled his national security team into the Oval Office this week to plan the next round of strikes. A U.S. official told the network the fighting could last anywhere from a couple of days to a month, depending on whether Iran keeps hitting commercial ships in the Strait of Hormuz. That same official said, quote, "We're going to slap them a bit." Washington is now weighing a naval blockade of Iranian ports. Nobody voted for this. Congress never authorized it. Oil prices are climbing, markets are sliding, and the men running this thing talk about slapping a country of 90 million people like it's a bar fight? Wars started this casually don't generally end quickly. Who referees an election when the referees get fired? Reuters reported Thursday night that Trump has fired the remaining 3 members of the Federal Election Commission 4 months before the midterms. The FEC enforces campaign finance law. It is already crippled by vacancies, too few members to even meet a quorum. Now nobody's home at all. This comes right after the Supreme Court threw out 90 years of precedent and handed the president near unlimited power to fire the heads of independent agencies, the very agencies Congress built to be independent from him. Reuters also reported the commission helps guide states on voting procedures and voting machine updates. The Trump, who has never let go of his rigged election fantasies, wants federal control over mail-in voting and investigations of local election workers. He's firing the umpires. Then he'll tell you who won. Why won't Trump sign the housing bill on his desk? The median price of an existing American home just hit $440,600, an all-time record, according to the National Association of Realtors. And the bipartisan bill written to bring those prices down is sitting on Trump's desk unsigned. Congress passed the Road to Housing Act by crushing margins, 89-10 in the Senate, 358-32 in the House. Trump canceled his own signing ceremony, demanding Congress pass his voter ID bill first and dismiss the housing bill as a big yawn. Elizabeth Warren, who wrote it, with Republican Tim Scott, had a simpler message, quote, sign the damn bill. Amy Klobuchar said it's been sitting on his desk long enough. The bill becomes law Friday night, whether he signs it or not. Remember, he never wanted it. Weekend at Mitch McConnell's. Mitch McConnell hasn't cast a Senate vote since June 11th. He went into a Washington area hospital on June 14th, and nearly a month later, his office still won't say why, how he's doing, or when he's coming back. A Republican congressman from Indiana went on television Thursday and asked out loud whether the 84-year-old is even alive. Emergency call audio, first reported by journalist Desiree Townsend, described responders giving CPR to someone in cardiac arrest at McConnell's address that day. His name isn't in the recording. His office won't discuss it. Kentucky's governor wrote asking for answers, saying office holders owe voters, quote, clear communication about one's ability to serve. The Senate comes back Monday, and McConnell still chairs the defense spending panel. A man can vanish for a month, and nobody in power blinks. They indicted an Olympian for touching water. Free Davey. Davey Hearn is 67 years old and a three-time Olympic canoeist. He stopped at the Lincoln Memorial reflecting pool during a 64-mile bike ride, reached in and touched a chunk of peeling blue sealant. National Guard troops and park police held him for 5 hours. A grand jury indicted him on a felony. He faces up to 10 years in prison. Thursday, he pleaded not guilty while supporters packed the courthouse, chanted his name, and waved signs renaming it the Deflection Pool. Trump's multi-million-dollar renovation has been peeling, blooming algae, and running green for months. They're draining it again, the second time in 3 months. Hearn's attorney, Norm Eisen, put it plainly, quote, it's not a crime to touch the reflecting pool. The pool fell apart on its own. The only suspect they could find was a guy on a bike. Crazy alert, is sharing cupcakes the gateway to communism? On Fox News Thursday night, guest host Charlie Hurt warned viewers about commie radicals surging through Democratic primaries. His Exhibit A, a campaign ad where Michigan Senate candidate Abdul El Sayed sits with a circle of school kids. He tells them that if you have something, you ought to share it. Then he asks them to imagine owning 1 billion cupcakes. Could they eat all billion? The kids say no. They get a stomachache. That's the whole clip. Hurt says El Sayed is, quote, already hard at work indoctrinating your kids, then gives the camera a sour look. A grown man watched a kindergarten lesson about sharing dessert and saw Karl Marx. Laugh, then stop laughing. Millions of Americans are being trained to hear basic decency as a foreign ideology. Sharing your cupcakes isn't communism, it's kindergarten. And that's the way it is today, Friday, July 10th, 2026. I'm Thom Hartmann.
Did you know that every weekday we send out an email before the show giving you all the topics coming up so you can be fully informed and ready to interact with our program? Or that after the show we send out Sue's Stack, a list of every topic I've discussed along with clickable hot links to every source of information I've shared with you on the air? It's all completely free and available over at thom.tv, THOM.tv. Check it out.
You were promised something, work hard, play by the rules, and you'd own a home, raise a family, retire with dignity. That was the deal, the American dream. So what happened to it? Well, here's the truth nobody told you. It didn't die, it was killed. And we know who did it, when they did it, and how they got away with it for almost 150 years. It starts with a lie buried in a court case in 1886. It runs straight through Reagan, and it's still robbing you blind right now. This wasn't bad luck, it was a crime, the greatest political crime ever told. Who killed the American dream? The greatest political crime ever told. The new book by me, Thom Hartmann. It's time you knew who did it. Who Killed the American Dream by Thom Hartmann. Other countries enjoy benefits like free health care in college, modern mass transit, affordable housing, food, and drugs. They also have inexpensive internet and phone service without companies listening and selling their information. Schools that don't need to mention school shooters. Streets and parks filled with pedestrians and children instead of tents and homeless people. We, on the other hand, have the world's largest collection of billionaires. Most Americans probably didn't realize this was the choice they were making back in the election of 1980 when Reagan and Bush promised morning in America. But here we are. We have been just basically sold out to the billionaires by all these years of Republican, Reaganomics. What do we do about it? Well, there's a lot we can do about it, and it starts with getting politically active. There's a great op-ed about this over at HartmannReport.com. It's titled, America Chose Wealth Over Well-Being. Check it out. Welcome back, 36 minutes past the hour. Picking up your calls here. Dusty in Kitsap County, Washington. Hey, Dusty, what's on your mind today?
Good morning, Tom. I want to mention that Bernie Sanders came to be here when he and Hillary were vying for the presidential nomination for the Democratic Party
in 2016.
And I went. It was 2020.
Oh, okay.
Yep. And I and a couple of carpooled down to the Tacoma Dome, and we saw and heard Bernie Sanders. And that facility holds 20,000 people when it's absolutely full. And the estimates were that there were 17,000 people there.
Yeah.
And I am not going to let go of the concept that what common people really want is what, the government that they pay into to take notice of their real lives.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that people come along and say, "Oh, well, we don't really want socialism." Well, that is not true. We pay in, and we should have something. The fact that the housing prices are so high right now just kills me.
Mm-hmm.
How do people expect to get a start with that kind of thing? So anyway. And another. Thing was happening at that time was we had a local group that was against, wanted to have common sense gun legislation. That was our thing. And we wore red shirts, and we would go to farmers markets, and I would take my dulcimer and play music. And
sweet.
And it was sweet. And then one week, the word went out that the gun organizations in our area were going to resist. And so at our farmers market, we had men with guns on their backs come to demonstrate to us that they are free to carry their assault rifle on their back to the farmers market. And the women that were at the gun sense desk stand, with a little roof and everything, gave the car keys to their kids, and they said, "Go hide in the car, go to the car now." And I could see that they'd arrived, and they were spreading out over and so I went near there, and I stepped right up to the fellow and wished him a happy Saturday, good morning, and I'm glad to see you at the market. What's new? And we conversed, and he actually had a little toddler there with him in a all cleaned up and in a frilly little dress. And but people can be confused. That's no place to bring a gun. Yeah. We just have to reduce the guns.
Yeah.
Okay, so I've said my whole thing. Thank you very much.
You're welcome, Dusty. If I was in that booth with the gun control people, I think I would have put a sign out. And I realize every time I say this, it offends some people, but given who these guys are, I would have put a sign out that says, here comes the small penis gun club. Because, these are phallic symbols for most of these guys. And whether their penises are small or not, in their minds they are, they're inadequate.
Yeah.
And,
the women in that booth had a dish of candy. The one that the one that had the buttons regarding manhood was just down the way a little bit.
There you go. There you go. Well, Dusty, thanks for the story, and thanks for the smile on a Friday. It's good talking to you. And I agree with you on Bernie. If Bernie could have easily beaten Trump, because they were both. It was the same argument, which is, we're not the establishment, and we are going to change America. And Bernie's version is far more popular.
I almost missed my main point, which is Bernie won Washington State. He was our pick.
Yep.
And he did that in several states.
Yep, that's true. Yeah. Thank you, Dusty. Yeah. Good talking to you. Sort of like with, Graham Plattner, this is now, water over the bridge or under the bridge or, over the dam or whatever the metaphor, but it still hurts. Vicki in Florence, Arizona. Hey, Vicki, what's on your mind today?
Oh, hey, Tom. I'm concerned about all of this stuff going on with Heritage Foundation Project 2025 Russell vote. On the director and his spearheading an all-out attack on the American government in a sprawling 400-plus page proposed rulemaking. It's going to be more than $1 trillion in federal tax dollars each year that are stripped away from Democratic, progressive, states, cities, colleges, universities, nonprofit organizations, and handed over to grifters, con artists, and those who embrace MAGA right-wing extremists. I am a person at the bottom of the rung, just a community organizer, but I have a very smart person above me who I'm sure you're aware of some of these things, that the political appointees can take control of grant awards, and the active grants can be terminated at any time, and broad prohibition of collaboration for science.
Yeah. And the Supreme Court made it a lot easier for Trump to do that, too.
Say that again?
The Supreme Court just made it a whole hell of a lot easier for Trump to do that kind of thing, too.
Well, and I'm not so sure, because this woman above me, she actually made the comment on the basic thing of changing the financial assistance rulemaking, and had provided an 11-page document comment to find out that this is all illegal. She has experience of drafting and reviewing legislation and regulations.
I get all that, Vicki, and I hope she's successful. The problem is that this administration doesn't care if something's legal or not. They just do whatever they want, and they wait to get sued, and then when they get sued, they try to appeal it, and ultimately, it gets to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court just overturns rules. But Vicki, thanks for the heads up on that. That's fascinating stuff. CJ in Shreveport, Louisiana. Hey, CJ, what's on your mind today?
Well, I was just, earlier this week, I think it was Wednesday, you was talking about communism. And how it's been around in like ancient societies like the Native Americans and stuff. Well, there's another one I know about, and if we're going to root out communism, root and branch, we need to go after these people too, because they've been communists from their beginning. One of their chief historians wrote about it in a book that is considered authoritative, and in that book he writes, let me get, I scrolled up away from it. And all that believed were together and had all things common, and sold their possessions and goods, and parted them to all men as every man had need. Acts chapter 2, verses 44
exactly.
and 45.
I was just going to say
and then
that's
in chapter
Acts.
4, verses 31 through 37, all the way to the end of the chapter, goes into more detail and gives an example. It even uses language similar to what Karl Marx would use 1 3/4 millennia later.
Yep. Jesus and his disciples were the original communists.
And after chapter 5, God enforces it by striking a couple dead who were lying about their participation.
Yeah, I get it, CJ. It's an important point. I mean, you see these T-shirts and bumper stickers that say Jesus was the original liberal. He was a lot more than a liberal. I mean, they shared the common purse.
Were communists.
Yeah, they shared the common purse, and Judas was the guy in charge of the common purse, and that was that became a problem. So there's your corruption by money. CJ, thanks a lot for the call. 45 minutes past the hour. I'll be back with more of your calls in just a minute. Stay with us.
You're listening to Thom Hartmann. Visit ThomHartmann.com for audio and video archives.
We'll be back with more of your calls in just a second. Stick around. And welcome back, Jeff in Portland. Hey, Jeff, what's up? What's on your mind today?
Hey, happy Friday, Tom. Welcome back. Hope you had a good vacation. I felt Alex did a really good job guest hosting while you were gone. But I do want to express condolences to Jefferson over the loss of his father, Joe. May he rest in peace. And so, Tom, your intro and Hartmann report today really chilling alarm bells to what's happening right now in America 2026. But like you said, despair and fear are not options. So we have, and I think adding that fear part to it, it's a good thing to say going forward. And so, we have 4 months to do everything we can to get people registered, to get out the vote, and maybe most importantly, monitor and protect the vote. I'd like to hear your thoughts on that. But before you say anything, I do want to say in regard to the Graham Plattner situation, in my opinion, there's plenty of moral high ground and momentum we can take from replacing him on the ticket with a strong progressive like Troy Jackson, as many people are saying. As has been said, we're replacing a guy accused of rape, while Susan Collins voted to put a guy accused of rape on the Supreme Court. And that guy, Brett Kavanaugh, then proceeded to overturn Roe v. Wade and take away a women's right to choose. So, the anti-oligarchy movement in Maine that Plattner created, it's bigger than him. It's now up to the Maine Democratic Party to do the right thing and keep it going by nominating someone like Jackson or possibly Shenna Bellows. Chris Hayes had an excellent interview last night with Rebecca Traister. She's a New York Magazine reporter who lives in Maine. And, she said, and she mentioned Shenna Bellows as a possible replacement. I think Troy Jackson is the one who seems to be the best fit, and I think he's got the best polling going against Susan Collins. But, Tracer said that Plattner, there's nothing that should be regretting the vetting process for Plattner. The guy was an amazing communicator. He was going into small towns in Maine and talking about protecting trans people, protecting immigrants, the virtues of Francis Perkins and the New Deal. So, let's not spend our time hand-wringing about, what turned out to be his personal flaws. Let's amplify his message and his movement. What do you think, Tom?
I agree. I wouldn't call it his message and his movement. I would say that it's the message and movement of the progressive movement. It's the one that Bernie almost single-handedly popularized in the United States, bringing the Democratic Party back to its FDR, JFK, LBJ roots. But and I think this may be actually an opportunity for the Democratic Party to, assuming that they do go along with either Troy Jackson or Shenna Bellows, who has been on this program. She's willing to fight Trump. She's a fighter. She may not be as progressive. I don't know her position, her stance on all the positions. But anybody's better than Susan Collins right now. And Janet Mills has, by vetoing some really good progressive legislation recently, Janet Mills has kind of shown her true corporatist colors, so she's out, and I think that's a good thing. So anyhow, enough of that. Jeff, thanks for the call. It's great to hear from you. I appreciate it.
Thanks,
10 minutes before the hour, and I will be right back with you. Stick around. Find the Thom Hartmann program wherever you go. In addition to radio stations across the nation and Free Speech TV on Dish Direct and the Internet, we're also live on YouTube across most social media and Tom.tv every single weekday with clips and links as well. Welcome back. It's 9 minutes before the hour. Picking up your calls here. Daryl in Bluffton, South Carolina. Hey, Daryl, what's up?
Hey, good afternoon, Tom. Great show as always.
Thank you.
Hey, one thing that I keep on hearing over and over and over is, well, I like them, but they're a good candidate, but are they conservative enough? Are they liberal enough? Are they whatever? We, as the Democratic Party, have got to stand together regardless of what our own personal platforms are. Because if we don't, we become circling firing squad all over again like we've done so many other times.
Yeah, it's Ben Franklin's famous statement at the end of the signing of the Declaration of Independence. If we don't stand together, if we don't hang together, we shall surely hang separately.
That's it exactly, because there's just too much to lose, namely democracy.
Yeah, I'm with you, Daryl.
My only other thing that I've got to say is kind of funny. It's not X, it's Twitter. Let's just call it Twitter. Don't give that man the time of day and call it whatever he wanted to call
that
it.
ran through my mind this morning when I use that letter, because I normally don't. I normally do refer to it as Twitter. And so thank you, Daryl. Apparently my instinct and your explicit statement are well aligned. And I, in print, I very rarely refer to it, by its current name. So, Daryl, thank you. Great to hear from you. Beachside Bill down in Orlando, Florida. Hey, Bill, what's up?
Afternoon, Tom. Hope everybody's well. I'll be quick.
Sure.
First thing, I just want to ask everybody out there who's eligible to go donate blood if they can this week and this summer. Because
you've given over like 100 gallons so far, haven't you?
Yeah, I'm at 163 gallons, Tom.
Wow.
I just reached 163. I'll be by the end of the year. I'll have 165.
God bless you.
But I just
You've saved lives.
I try. Who knows?
And you probably extended your own life. I mean, it's when you give blood, it apparently stimulates the production of stem cells from your bone marrow that regenerates your body. I mean, there's some really remarkable research on this. But anyway, that's not what you called about.
But yeah, quick. I'll just get. If we ever get the Congress back with the presidency, we need one thing with Supreme Court. A couple things with Supreme Court reform. First thing, let's have cameras in the courtroom. I want to see the Supreme Court. I want to see cameras in the courtroom. The federal courts.
I agree.
And the second thing is, and we need to do away with the shadow docket, because the shadow docket, and I think Congress can do away with it, as well as the other, term limits and
Congress
and
can
things
regulate
like
the
that.
Supreme Court. It has the power to do that. Article 3, Section 2. Yep.
That's what we need. That's where I'm at with that, because what they've done lately is horrible. Especially taking away rights. Yeah. And I think another quick thing is there should be a majority. If you're going to go after someone's civil rights, it should be a super majority, an 8-1, not 7-2. Before it just should be.
I agree on any constitutional issue. It should be a 2/3 majority. I absolutely agree with you, Bill. Yeah. And these again are rules that can be established by the United States House and Senate. Thank you, Robin in Kingston, Washington. Hey, Robin, what's up?
Hey, Tom, I'm just going to put 2 bits in for the state of Maine and how we can help out across the country. Mm-hmm. Earlier, I had mentioned and come up with an idea called the Citizens Electoral College. I'll explain that in a minute. But the 2 least democratic institutions in our country are the Senate and the Electoral College.
Correct.
So I feel that we need to do across the country interstate political commerce and help out the Democratic Party of Maine dig themselves out, and then they're going to select their own person, and then help them get that person elected.
Yeah.
And what I do know of Mainers is that just sending them some money, or maybe giving a postcard from another state saying "We're with you, Maine," or whatever it might be, is effective. Calling Mainers from out of state will not work. Okay, that will be counterproductive.
It's a fairly insular
I'm just asking
state culture.
Everybody in Hartman Nation, also across the country. Okay, now is the time that we can do something about the undemocratic.
Robin, I only have 1 minute left here. I want to get one more call in, but thank you. Well said. Tom in Lincoln, Nebraska. That 1 minute is yours. What's up? Hello? Okay, let's try Sasha in Kent, Washington. You got the last minute.
Well, lucky me. I cope with humor, so I wanted to talk about Vice President Netanyahu, because I think we're underestimating the power, and the answer is Epstein. It's a triangle that went from Epstein to Moscow to Netanyahu. He was in full communication with Mossad. They know everything he knew. And
that's true, actually, according to the Epstein files.
That's why we went to war in Iran.
And Ehud Barak, I think, was the Israeli prime minister who was constantly hanging out with Epstein and the young girls. Sasha, I'm out of time, but thank you for the call. Spot on. And special thanks to Louise Hartman, Sean Taylor, Jamie Holly, Nigel Peacock, Sue Nethercutt, Patrick Hoyt, Geraldine Halbert, Ron Hartenbaum, Chase Spross, Nicholas Miller, Pat Sweeney, Jeremy Peterson, Connor Arroyo, Carna Verdes, Josiah Wester, Martha Salinas, Mateo Robertson, Diane Russell, and Ruben Michaels, all the fine people who work on this program. And thank you to you for helping us out, for spreading the good word and being so loyal to us. Don't forget, democracy is not a spectator sport. Get out there, get active, tag URL. Have a wonderful weekend. Stay healthy, be good, and I'll catch up with you on Monday. We'll be back.
You've been listening to Thom Hartmann. For audio and video archives, visit thomhartmann.com.